It's 5:30. It's called the Madras City Council to order. Okay, you want to go ahead and do the. All right, you're going to do them as a group, one at a time, or?
Testing. Okay. Can I have Counselor Bell, Counselor Thomas, and Counselor Solis to do our swearing in? Would a city staff member be able to take pictures for me? Because I forgot that part. I'm the photographer. I don't have my phone on me. And Kiva's taking them too. She'll send them to me. Thank you. And you're welcome up here. Yeah, she's got it. Okay. All right. So we have Counselor Solis is being re-sworn in for his second term in office. And then we have Counselor Thomas and Counselor Bell that are going to be sworn in for their first term in office, essentially. Okay, so if you guys all could raise your right hand and then repeat after me. So I state your name. Do solemnly swear to support the Constitution and the laws of the United States, the state of Oregon, the city of Madras charter, ordinances, and rules of procedures. During my appointment, I will faithfully and honorably perform the duties of city councilor.
Okay. If everyone please rise for the pledge led by Counselor Siebold and our prayer by Counselor Solis.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us all safely together this evening to hear matters before the City Council and to review the agenda items. And I just pray that you would give us wisdom and clarity of mind as we review these and make decisions, that they would be beneficial for the community as a whole, and that we would keep that in mind as we perform public service over the next several years. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Kelly, did you want to get a group photo sometime during the break or?
Yes, I would love that. So we can maybe sneak that in at some point.
We'll take a break somewhere along this lengthy agenda and do it then.
Yes,
Yeah, in that case, can we get a roll call?
yes, absolutely. Mayor Lapine,
Present.
Counselor Bell. Microphone, please. And Counselor Siebold,
Present.
Counselor Solis,
Present.
Counselor Yoder,
Present.
and Counselor Thomas. And Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Public comments. I know there's two on here right now for public comments. We'll start with those. Karen McCarthy. And Will. And Dip, is Dippy with you?
Time to fill out the rest of the form.
Ah, well then, please state your name.
Karen McCarthy, Madras, Oregon.
And William O'Daniel, representing Whack-Nine Training and the Pet Populace of
Right.
Madras.
Right.
All right, so we come to you guys today to discuss two things, and I'll try to make it as quick as possible because I know I have 3 minutes. One is that our shelter is in the process, and of course, the Commissioner Want of Jefferson County, he is taking the liaison position of that in discussions. So coming back to you guys, I will be discussing to get some shelter items on the agendas in the future to bring that to you guys' attention as well. But another portion that we have is there's been a concern that has been popped up in our community, and I wanted to check ordinance on this as well because I can't find anything on it. But there is dog breeder that is one that specifically that he's been in downtown Madras using private property to sell dogs, German Shepherds and Rottweilers specifically.
This is the
They
guy at
come from
Weimar?
Mitchell. What's that?
This is the guy parks over at Weimar.
Yes. And he's been going to Town Pump and also parks down here in the old Dego lot. And he's kind of going all over. But based on this guy's history, he does have a background of animal abuse, conviction out of Wheeler County. He's out of Mitchell, so he's bringing his dogs in from Mitchell, so I'm out of county as well, and selling them here. Knowing that we don't have a shelter and knowing that we don't have a way to mitigate that issue, he's bringing more animals into here and selling them and putting them, more of them out on the streets and along the likes of that. So one thing that I would like to communicate to you guys is to check into ordinances and what our ordinance is as a city to have people selling small game, small animals, and even livestock within our community, where it's not at an auction event or the auction yard or at our previous shelter facility, because I haven't found anything on that. And I've come to you guys to see if there's something that we can do to put something in ordinance to help enforce that. Because again, it's just putting a spite on our pet population here. And of course, the guy's history also puts a damper into that as well.
And I'm just here to second what Will's saying. I actually kind of made time to go down and seek out the guy. He's not anyone wants to get involved with in a one-to-one basis. Felt very unsafe even being 10 feet away from him. But anyway, so it's live animals on the street. Some of them are on the public, like the sidewalk part. He was in like a driveway apron on one place that I observed him. His MO is usually parking lots, and he asks a lot of money for these dogs and, there's no proof of registration. There's no proof of a health or, vaccinations or anything. But is it legal to sell live animals on city property or commercial or private property within the city? Business license, I did ask the police chief about, does this individual, because like, how to get
That
rid,
is the
can we
3-minute
just
mark.
find out if he has a business license and say, "Hi."
I think this is gonna be a bigger, conversation that we have for tonight. I'm gonna turn this topic over to both Chief Plummer and Will, so they can look into this later, and we obviously know who you are, and we can get in touch
Well,
with you.
thank you.
this
Just
will
wanted to
give us a
bring
place
it
to
to
start.
everybody's attention because it is a thing. So,
I
Okay.
will check with a business license and code enforcement tomorrow,
Okay.
and we'll see what the next steps are. So thank you.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Will you please send us all an email, Will, on what you find out? Thank you.
And Karen and Will, we'll make sure that gets forwarded to you as well. We'll make sure that information gets forwarded to you as well. Mike Williams.
Opportunity to take your time and address this council. And I just wanted to come and voice some concern. I was directed by the county commissioners to come here and mention the fact that we've got a bit of a
Excuse-
growing
Mike?
problem in the community with
Can you please state your name, and are you representing the VFW today?
Mike Williams, I'm sorry, and Veterans Officer here in the community.
Okay.
for American Legion, VFW, et cetera.
Thank you.
And so what I'm seeing here, there were 9 entities on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, that did not have their flags lowered here in the community. This particular property shined. They had their flag in order.
Of course.
But it's what we're teaching our youth, our children, and why they're not necessarily speaking a foreign language by mandate. And, so they need to see that we're taking care of our business. I've brought this before the Governor's Advisory Committee, and they asked me to come back and bring it to the community again. So here I am. I'd like the support of the council, as I've asked for the commissioners to kind of push this a little bit in the community. And I'll be putting advertisements in the paper so the community knows that we have half-staff days coming and some different things for the veterans and just information for the community. So I'm just basically asking for the council's assistance whenever possible, however possible, as I am the commissioners. And
You can share that information with Kelly or Records, and we can maybe put that on Facebook as well when those days comes up.
Appreciate your service, sir. Thank you.
sorry,
Appreciate your service, sir. Thank you.
thank you for your time.
Bet. Is anybody else in the audience here for public comment? None? How about on Zoom? Anybody on Zoom for public comment? All right, here none, we'll move on to any amendments to the regular agenda? None? Then we'll move on to the consent agenda.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
There's no consent agenda. That makes that really simple. Thank you for the effort there, Counselor Seabolt.
I was practicing doing warm-ups.
Great way to start in 2025. So, visitor presentation proclamation, neighbor impact presentation by Scott Cooper. Are you present?
Good evening, counselors. I'm Scott Cooper. I'm the Executive Director of Neighbor Impact. And I'm joined tonight by Christy Abbey from my Board of Directors. I believe some of you may know Christy. She's a city councilor in Metolius and one of my favorite board members I have ever had. My organization, this presentation came about because Councilor Siebold and I were seated next to each other at the Regional Housing Council. And Councilor Siebold asked, tell me a little bit more about this. You do housing, right? Yes, we do housing. Do you do anything else? Yes, we do a few other things. And he said, well, maybe the city council should hear more about that. So I'm here tonight to tell you just a little bit about the largest nonprofit in Central Oregon by volume of people served. I want to tell you, first of all, that I myself live in Prineville, not in Redmond or Bend. And I've lived there a long time and I've served in elected office over there. And I'm very used to people from Bend and Redmond showing up and telling me how well they know my community and trying to convince me of that. And I am not here tonight to tell you how well I know your community, having lived in one of the outlying communities. I don't know anything about your community, only you do. So I hope that I can tell you what we hope to do in your community, what we are doing in your community. You can use that information to make it work best for your community. I love your logo or your slogan, a vibrant, responsive community where you can thrive and grow. We hope that everyone gets a chance to thrive and grow. Our own mission is supporting people and strengthening communities just like yours. We have a tripartite board. That means we have a third of our board is drawn from economically disadvantaged people, which we define as 80% of area median income and below, as well as a third community members and a third elected officials. We have a number of folks from your region. We have Councilor Abby, the Honorable Judge Annette Hillman just retired from our board December 31st. We'll miss her very much. Dan Martinez, the emergency manager at Warm Springs, is on our board, and Lori Danzuka from the Jefferson County 509J School Board is on our board. And they are wonderful spokespeople for their part of the community, and they are passionate advocates for making sure that Jefferson County gets its fair share of everything that comes along. We do maintain an office here. We have an office over there by, what's the name of the cell phone place, Christy? Cricket something. Anyway, right, the mail copies in more place. So it's over there. Imagine the building is owned by Rick Allen. I know that will be a surprise to everybody in Madras. We also have an office up in Warm Springs. We have a 0.8 advocate here, Marcela Hernandez, and we have a full-time advocate, Dot Thurby, in Warm Springs, just helping people get connected to the various services that we offer. You can go on to the next page, Kelly, if you don't mind. So we are the largest nonprofit in the region. As I said, we have 275 employees regionally, 55 million in annual budget, 34 facilities, and 10 major programs. And we are the community action agency designated by the county commissioners and the governor's office, serving the Tri-County region. We are a member of NeighborWorks America, which is 240 organizations nationwide, 6 of which are in Oregon, which are experts in homeownership and financial counseling. And we are a Feeding America partner agency designated to receive federal commodities and redistribute those to those who are in need. The major programs that we offer include the Regional Food Bank. Think of us as the wholesaler and then our partners as the retailers. So we bring in the food and then we redistribute it through the 58 partners, including a number of them here in Jefferson County, to people who are hungry. We are the regional Head Start provider for Crook and Deschutes. That contract is held differently here in Jefferson for a variety of historical reasons. We are the Regional Home Ownership Center, the only one east of the Cascades. We are the Regional Child Care Resources Hub. So that means we are assisting folks in setting up childcare and running childcare and trying to make sure we can increase capacity and provide workforce. We do not do childcare referrals per se. That is reserved by state statute for the 211 system. We do housing stabilization. So we're doing housing to keep people in housing. We believe that prevention is the most important way to deal with homelessness. Don't let it happen in the first place. It gets a whole lot more expensive once you do have to take people from the street and put them back into some sort of shelter. So we will do eviction prevention or some short, medium, and long-term rent assistance, depending on your condition. That is mostly aimed at folks who are elderly, disabled, or have something that would prevent them from going out and raising, the rent on their own. Energy assistance, we do quite a bit of that. That actually is an area that has been shrinking for us because federal and state investment has sort of gone flat on that, but energy prices have not gone flat. So you do the math, same amount of money, more cost, less people. Still, we are doing a significant amount of helping people pay off their energy bills, many of which soared during COVID and never really came back down. It's becoming a real problem. Until last year, we were doing water assistance, and we thank the city of Madras for partnering with us on that. Those funds were withdrawn by the state legislature, which has to make priority choices. But there were a number of people who were able to get their water bills completely paid off and get caught up. And we think you'll see more of that in the future. We weatherize about 100 houses a year. So there we're coming in and we're taking measures to make those houses more energy efficient and bring them up to speed so people can stay in them. That, in addition to being an energy saving program, is a blight elimination program, because some of those homes are occupied and have had trouble keeping up over the years, and we're able to help them get back on track. We will often pair them with a loan. We do a number of loans. We have about a $5.5 million portfolio that revolves. Those loans for the right person can be deferred so that we collect all of the interest and fees at the very end when the house is sold or transferred. We can sit on those for 30 years sometimes, but it gives people an opportunity to come in and get their basic plumbing dealt with, or electricity upgraded, or paint or roof, or whatever it is they need. We have a representative payee program. The representative payee program helps people who are cognitively or physically impaired to the point they can't manage their own finances. And so we take over and we become their paying representative. When you take over someone's life, paying their bills, you take over their entire life, whether you like it or not. That's kind of how that works. And it's a very personal service that we offer, but a very important service. And then lastly, we do community development. We run the community development block grant program for the region, and we've done at least 2 of those here in the region, one for water and sewer and one for the food bank. And those have been highly successful in bringing resources to your community. We just finished we are just celebrated December 5th, our 40th year as an organization. And we're very proud to have spent those 40 years serving Jefferson County. You've been with us since the inception. We're gonna have a big party on the 24th. I think you were all invited to that, and I hope you all come down for it in Redmond. And we just published our numbers for last year and how many people we served. And I can say that we provided almost 80,000 individual services in Jefferson County last year. And now every time you get a meal from the food bank, we count that as a service. So that's how we get to that number. And it's fairly substantial, but our numbers overall were up. We brought in about $4.5 million in direct cash investment to support people. So that is things like paying your energy bill or paying your rent or whatever we did to put cash in your pocket. And then we managed to leverage about $2.5 million in economic activity during that same 1-year period. So we are not only an agency which helps people wherever we meet them, but we also are an economic development engine, because most of the dollars that we bring in are imported from outside of the community. About 90% of our funds come from Washington, D.C. and Salem. That's about a 20% federal, 80% state split in those, and those go straight back into your community. Because when I give somebody a check of any sort, I can guarantee you it doesn't go to waste. It goes to pay off utilities, it goes to pay back rent, it goes to buy a washing machine, it goes to buy tires, whatever people are needing at the moment. So we are very proud of the work we do. We did not hit it. I thought this was the year we were going to hit it. We are approaching 1 million services a year in the region. It was 917,000. So next year will be our 1 million year. But we are very proud to be able to help people. We are very proud of the fact that we are not just an anti-poverty agency. Helping people who are poor is very, very important, because I don't know, I'm largely motivated by my faith and a belief that I was told not to let people starve to death or freeze to death. And it's my basic human responsibility to take care of people. But there's a whole group of people that are above the poverty level who are struggling too. There's a working class out there that needs our support. And we look for opportunities like our heat pump program this year, where we were able to go around and put in free heat pumps for about, I think it was about 70 people before we got all done. That's huge. It can really change a family's life when we're able to do things like that. Get families connected to affordable childcare, or get them connected to employment-related daycare programs so they can go to work. That group is really important to us, along with that group which is low income and which is largely disabled, or has children, or has other issues, elderly, can't work, that needs our supports. So we're proud to be a part of the Madras community in that regard. We're always looking for new opportunities to partner. And I appreciate Councilor Siebold for inviting us here to tell you more. If I can answer any questions, I'm happy to do so, but I'm sure I have a lot of business.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything you do for our community. I think we should, maybe we could set up a meeting of some sort with Will, see if there's maybe better ways we can leverage our relationship to help our community. I'm sure you've got a lot of programs that maybe we're not fully utilizing. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming to do this. I was hoping that we can strengthen our ties from this. So let's move forward and see what we can do. Because it's been a tough time, and there are a lot of people that, particularly the working class. I completely agree. A lot of people that need some assistance, and I'm sure a lot of people simply aren't aware of the programs that you provide, or they would be taking advantage of them. So let's do that.
If I may be so bold as to offer, Counselor, you've made an amazing hire in Will, who has been a really, really good partner to us.
I don't
and reached
disagree.
out almost immediately after he got here and started trying to make those connections, and is not shy about calling and saying, I have this problem. What can you do about it? So thank you, Will, for your partnership.
I appreciate that because my review's coming up.
You mentioned 80,000
Yeah.
services within Jefferson County. And maybe it's not possible for you guys to have this data, but does NeighborImpact track by family or individual? So if family A is coming and getting meals quite regularly, right? It sounds like each of those counts as a service. It would be intriguing to me to be able to see how many families or how many individuals are being served, regardless of the fact that they're getting repeat service. So we know that Joe Smith is getting service every day. He's coming in for lunch or what have you, right? But he just would count as one individual. That would be very intriguing to see, because then we could see if work that the city's doing and work that we're doing with NeighborImpact is having a positive benefit to make it to where individuals don't have to use the service. It's a wonderful service. I have family members who have used the service in the past, so I fully support it and support what you guys are doing. But we also want to get them to a point where they don't have to utilize that service, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And we would certainly like to see that same thing. The common data system and the unduplicated count is the holy grail of the work that we do. The problem we have is that we have 26 separate data systems, most of which are mandated by the program that funds it, and they don't tend to talk to each other. And because there are 960 community action agencies across the country, all of which have a different program mix, there is no one program which is built to aggregate data from all 26 of those platforms. So we are working on that. Our work has not produced any results very much yet, but we're getting better, and we're going to get to that point. You may be, mayor about 10 terms from now by the time we get to that.
Oh, this guy's sticking around for quite some time, so. But no, I totally can understand and respect that. It's difficult to consolidate data like that. So appreciate the data you do have. It's still very beneficial and helpful, and appreciate the work you guys do.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Next one is Government Portfolio Advisors, Investment Advisory Services.
I believe they are online, Mayor.
Deanne, are you there?
I am here. I'm just trying to get my camera set up for you. It's not allowing me, so just one moment, please. Good evening. I'm Deanne Woodring, and I'm president and founder of Government Portfolio Advisors. And I've been asked to speak to the council this evening regarding the opportunity to manage your investment program there, internally utilizing an investment advisor. I have a presentation that you should have in front of you that gives you some background, but I thought what I would do is just kind of talk through that, and then we can reference any of those pages. So Government Portfolio Advisors is based out of Portland, Oregon. We currently manage over 25 billion in investment assets for local governments. Here within Oregon, we are the leader in advisory services, providing investment advice to local governments in the amount of about 9 billion. We are the Jefferson County
Deanne?
Yes.
This is Kate. if you wouldn't mind pausing for just a moment, we have a couple of new council members. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to share a little bit of history, kind of where the city is historically, currently, and why we've invited GPA in to speak today. But-
Perfectly.
Great, thank you. Sorry about
Mhm.
that. So a couple of talking points I created for our new council members and existing is that historically, the city of Madras has held their investments both with the treasury pool, which we refer to as the LGIP pool, but we've also held these investments with Jefferson County that GPA manages. And a little history on that, in the spring of 2023, the city withdrew approximately $7 million from Jefferson County investment pool that was managed by GPA. The funds were moved to the state's treasury pool, also known as the local government investment pool, or LGIP, which the reason they did that at the time was because as interest rates increased, so did our investment percent, like interest also increased. And the treasury pool at the time was higher than what they were earning through the Jefferson County pool. And that is common in with this large investment versus what they could do kind of quickly. It was a quick investment. The LGIP is also a short-term investment pool with the state. It's commingled with state funds, but that's what they did in 2023. In the winter, 2023. In the winter of 23, the city transferred close to $1.5 million from the LGIP to the First Interstate Bank money market account with the intention of investing these funds. As far as I can tell, these funds have stayed in a money market in First Interstate Bank. And today the LGIP pool, which is earning 4.7%, has close to $12 million of the city's funds and close to 2.85 million in First Interstate Bank. So the way the city works is we use First Interstate for a lot of our operating funds, and we transfer from LGIP to First Interstate and draw that down. But Jefferson County will transfer our property tax turnover monthly into the LGIP fund. Then if we need those funds, we'll draw it down. So that's a little bit of history kind of on where we've come from in the last couple of years to currently. Now, as we see interest rates start to come down, at one point we were over 7% in the LGIP, but now we're dropping below 5. So right now it's 4.7, and we're looking for opportunities to invest funds for the city and diversify that helps us meet our goals. And that's where GPA will come in, and later on during the agenda items, I can share more information. But that's just a little bit to introduce Deanne. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's go through the presentation here and we kind of talk about the value of investing on your own, and we can talk a little bit about what the pool, county pool, is doing as well to discuss the alternatives. So the key with investing for any city, so we do manage the city of Bend's money as well, Cook County, so we're in your region. But the key that we look for in managing city accounts is what amount of liquidity do you need on hand for daily cash needs? And then are there opportunities to invest within state statute and policy limits using treasuries, agencies, and high quality corporates in a longer investment profile? And in reviewing the city's portfolio and how you're currently structured, we would look at probably putting about, out of the 12 million, 6 million invested longer and 6 million short in the liquidity component of the pool. We do an ongoing service for our clients of looking at ongoing cash flows. We help the finance director with budget analysis. We look at project funds that if those are ever coming up. and really do a hands-on and kind of a partnership with our clients to make sure that we are an extension of the city staff in working on the needs, the financial needs of the city. So next slide, please. So of our team, myself, Deanne Woodring would be the lead advisor. Frank McDonald is our senior advisor, and then Whitney Mayer would be our associate advisor, who would all be working on the city's account, working with both Kate and Will on the investment plans there at the city. Next slide. So as an advisor, we are a fiduciary advisor, so we do everything in the best interest of our clients. Our firm was founded in 2014. As I mentioned earlier, we currently work with 74 clients, and we're in 9 states. So we're well versed in managing local governments, and that is the only work that we do. And the key is working in that fiduciary capacity, that everything is on the city's behalf. We do transactions with broker-dealer community. We are very competitively priced on those, but every trade that is done would provide that Kate or Will would have to approve those trades. So trades are submitted on a proposal of what would meet the objectives of the investment portfolio, and approval would come back to GPA, and then we would execute those trades. Next slide. So the way we really look is to balance, as Kate just mentioned, we really look to balance over the long run the rates of short-term rates, which that's where the Oregon State Pool is currently yielding a 4.70, and a 0 to 5, which has about a 2-year average maturity to that structure. In today's rate environment, in that 0 to 5, we're still slightly below the pool rates, but normally in normal curve environments, the short-term rates are much lower than the investment rates. So what we're positioning portfolios for, given that we've just come out of a very high interest rate cycle, is to anchor down portfolio yields in a 1-year to a 5-year maturity blended structure. And over an interest rate cycle, that combined portfolio should provide a higher yield than just keeping all your money in the short part of the curve in the state pool. The county pool is managed in this way. We manage right now about 70% of the portfolio is in the 0 to 5, and about 30% is in the LGIP. There's a very disciplined strategy that we approach in looking at liquidity and core components to the pool, understanding all the participants that are investing in that. And I think the primary difference that the city can evaluate to determine whether you invested internally there with your own advisor or utilize the pool would be, are there significant differences in the structure of how the funds would be invested that you have there at the city? Is there additional needs that you have in earmarking certain cash flows? And typically, because you are a smaller city, the impact of our fees are pretty high relative to the size. So we do manage portfolios down as low as 5 million. You guys are about 12 million, but there is an impact on your yield because of that structure, and our minimum fee is $10,000. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge and look at for the city to determine the value proposition of having your own advisor for your own decisions relative to the county pool. But typically this graph is showing you how the green line would be your liquidity, the blue line would be your investments, and this is how we're trying to position the portfolios for the long run. Next slide. And then this is just kind of a picture of what's happened with short-term rates for you all to kind of step back on. We just recently in 20 and 21 came out of a very low rate environment. We were literally investing around a 0.5 on a 2-year treasury security, and the state pool was only yielding a 0.1. So the benefit of having your portfolio diversified in a longer portfolio and in a short LGIP is the combination of those two earnings yields over interest rate cycles achieve about 20 to 30 basis points more over normal interest rate cycles. As was just mentioned, we've recently come out of a very dramatic Fed hike move where we took short-term rates all the way up to 5.5. Today, they're back down around 4.50 in anticipation of those coming down. So this is an opportunity to diversify using investments in anticipation of that outlook. Now, I'll give you some backdrop to that because we are very, very uncertain times in the market as well. I'm sure you're all reading about what's happening with interest rates, so we're quite volatile. I've been in the markets for almost 40 years now, and I feel like this is a real comfortable rate environment. I'm excited about this for all of our clients because earning money at 4% is really benefiting the coffers of all of the clients in an earnings rate environment. Next slide. And then this slide is just kind of talking about those projections. So this is what the market is forecasting and looking for rates coming down. The key is that blue line, which is short-term pool rates, Fed fund rates, is where the LGIP is basically anticipated to go. And how do you diversify your portfolio to prevent it all from just kind of riding down and sliding with that? And that's using a core and a liquidity investment program. Next slide. And then there's a whole scope of services that GPA does do for our clients. We assist with your investment policy review. I do serve on the short-term fund board in an oversight position to all policies that are done by local government. So I'm very versed in investment policy. We help with a custodial bank search if you need it to hold your securities. We're very active in cash flow forecasting, looking at debt service liabilities, adding those into a cash flow plan of your investment program. If you have bond proceeds, we assist in managing those. We execute trades and we establish benchmarks to provide accountability to you that your portfolio is doing what you're expecting it to do in the interest rate environment. Additionally, we provide a client portal with one of the top tier reporting systems. So in bringing the portfolio more internally, there is reporting needs, which we fully support. We help on the GASB reporting and any arbitration calculations that are needed. Next slide. And then here's just our list of Oregon clients. So we work with many, we have 11 city clients, 9 county clients, special districts, and school districts. So we're very diversified across the types of clients that we work with. And our focus is on the counties and the cities here in Oregon. And that's really it. I can take questions and discuss, the alternatives that you are facing, and am here to provide you any input.
And maybe before any questions for Deanne, I would just like the council to know that these are one of the options we have for investments. We've talked and looked at kind of assessed where we are now, and that's why, LGIP is an option, GPA is an option as a client for the city, but we also historically have invested as well with Jefferson County. There are fees involved with all three, and we just wanted to provide as much information for an educated decision for our council. But fire away at Deanne.
All right. So I'm going to start out with somewhat of a disclosure that I am the county finance director. And so I am a county official as well as serving on Madras City Council. And I do work closely with GPA and Deanne and her team on the county investments that Kate has mentioned. With that, GPA presented to the county commissioners in December and informed the county at that time, disclosed to the county that GPA was in talks with the city to look at potentially having the city come on as a client for GPA, and wanted the county to be aware of that, just to disclose. That way the county would be aware, and there's no conflict of interest with this as an opportunity for the city or the county. GPA's recommendation to the county commissioners was to allow the city to go and handle their own investments, partner with GPA directly, and to invest separately outside of the county pool that is offered. As the county finance director, I 100% agree with this recommendation, and it is my personal recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners that this isn't an issue. Allow the city to do their own thing. Unfortunately, I wear 2 hats because I serve both in that capacity and as city councilor. And so when I take my county official hat off and put on my city councilor hat, I have to question the logic and the wisdom, prudence of investing on our own with GPA and paying fees on our own as a city when we already have struggling funds throughout our city. We have significantly less income than other neighboring jurisdictions do. And paying this fee on our own, from what I've read through and my understanding, and I could be wrong, Deanne, correct me, Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the long-term return of partnering with GPA individually as a city would be identical to if we were to participate with the county's pool that is offered to the taxing districts locally. However, for a fraction of the cost. So the county's fees are distributed out to all of the districts that participate, so they all do pay a fee, but it is a portion of the fee significantly less than paying it on your own. And so my recommendation would be against this particular item. I think that there are other things I'd rather see the city spend this money on. And I think the opportunity to invest and receive the same return on that investment with the county pool would be the logical path to proceed as a city.
Yeah, so I love this stuff. Finance stuff is my wheelhouse. I have a finance banking background. So yeah, I have studied this and I have pretty much reached the exact same conclusion as my friend, Councilor Solis. We did talk about it, and it sounds like we might get a slightly better return just from the starting point, first year or two, but then over a period of time, we're going to be in the same funds, essentially getting the same rate of return. And I think the only value proposition is we get a suite of tools that would help our finance director, Kate, as far as her cash flow management and planning. However, I think at the fee level, especially let's say over a 10-year period, I don't think that that suite of services, those tools are worth the marginal increase in cost relative to staying with the county. I am curious if Councilor Sleeves happens to know how much we pay the county as part of our fee. I don't know if it's just broken up or if it's proportional relative to balance size.
It is proportional.
So our difference is going to be the 10,000 or a potentially negotiated lower price minus the fee we are paying the county is our net difference. So bottom line, I think we should probably just go back with the county and commingle the funds with them, be part of their pool, and move forward from there. Although I do love doing this stuff, so part of me is a little sad.
So I have a question. I'm not sure who could best answer this, but just so council is aware, with this plan, we would have control over what we invest in. If the money goes back to the county, do we have a say at all in any direction that they go towards it? For example, we may like Fund A better than Fund B. Do we get a say in that if we're paying a portion of the fee, or is it purely the county's decision because it is part of their piece, they're part of their pie?
I can help answer that. The treasurer will approve trades at Jefferson County, and it will fall in line with their investment policy. So it's Jefferson County's investment policy.
I would agree with that. I would also point out the objectives, both in the county's policy and in the policy presented in our packet. They are identical. And so there is no change in that. And as the custodial officer for the county in my role as the finance director, there's very little decisions related to it. GPA is a great team. Deanne and her crew do really well. They are watching the market like a hawk. They are immediately letting us know when investments are downgraded and when we may need to sell, and getting on the agenda for the Board of County Commissioners to make that decision. But overall, they make the recommendation to us of, hey, this is our proposed investment. Let us know if you have any questions. Outside of that, it's not listing out multiple different options. It's their recommendation. As a custodial officer, I rely heavily on them to make that recommendation because this is their bread and butter. This is their day-to-day. They're watching the markets. They know what a good decision is. They know what the investment policy for the county is, and they make those recommendations based upon that. So outside of that, this is not my bread and butter. It's not something that I do on a day-to-day. So I rely on that recommendation and pass that through on to the commissioners when they need to approve it, or make that decision myself as the custodial officer. You can, of course, participate as a city in conversations with the county commissioners if you had concerns or recommendations about that investment policy. Outside of that, there's not a lot of what I would call control aspect that would be in the hands of the city.
Okay, thank you.
So Deanne, just to clarify, if we did want to go out on our own, essentially it would probably be the same investments and over time, almost identical yield, rate of return, maybe slight different just from a different starting point like year one. But beyond that, it's essentially going to be the same investment return on our investment, but we're going to have the fees. Is that correct?
Over interest rate cycle, yes. And like you mentioned earlier, I think coming in, the entry level would be higher just because the county pool is now just coming up in yield on some reinvestments. And I think it's important to note that when the city came into the pool, it needs to understand that it is a longer term investment. So the pulling out of the pool, the county pool, did cause disruption to the strategy because it was a large amount and was liquidated right away. And this is a longer term strategy. So I think I think it's important that it's understood that the same strategy we use, this is the right strategy for the city and what the county's doing. If you go back into the pool and embrace that, just looking at the yield today and pulling that around pulls everybody around and hurts everybody in the participant of the pool. So I guess that's the one key, is that there will be a commitment going back into the pool to have that longer term perspective. That doesn't mean you can't have your money out, but in expecting to withdraw the full 7 million again did impact the county pool's investment strategy. And so I think maybe you'd probably come back with them too, because that could be explained more and what that means. But that has been discussions at the county level as well, is that we have to make sure that all the participants are protected in how the pool operates. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Fair enough. Basically, we shouldn't view this as some sort of like arbitrage slush fund where we're moving between the accounts. If we go back to the county, it's a long-term commitment because we don't want to have adverse impacts on their pool of the other agencies, districts in that group.
Correct. And it would be the same impact that you would have if you're doing it yourself. When interest rates go up dramatically, like they just went up, our investments, our longer term investments drag that a little bit. What we're anticipating now is rates are going to be coming down, and that longer investment profile will benefit everybody, and you would be included in that.
Counselor Yoder, you had some thoughts?
I agree with what was said with Gabriel or Solis and Seabold both. So I agree. I'd rather leave it with the county than to create our own type of fund.
Counselor Thomas?
I also agree with what they were saying.
Counselor Bell?
We're all on the same page.
I do want to throw out that there is absolutely no benefit to the county for the city participating in the pool. The county doesn't benefit in any way. There's no win necessarily on the county side, one way or the other. If the city was to stay outside of the county pool, our investments move forward. If they participate in our pool, our investments move forward. There's no positive or negative impact to the county based on this decision. So I'm not in any capacity fighting on behalf of the county in this. I'm trying to ensure that as a city councilor, I am being responsible with the public taxpayer dollars, as that's what they are. And I don't want to see us unnecessarily bleed out on fees if we don't have to.
Is there any other comments? Any further comments? I don't feel anybody's going to make a motion.
This was just a presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just eliminate the agenda items.
This was just Kate giving us options, which I think is very appreciated. So thank you for bringing this to us, to Kate. We had a robust discussion. I think we all learned how it works. So I think this has been a useful exercise.
And
you
I
have
will add, GPA is always available for Kate, if she has any cash flow or needs there. As a manager of the pool as well, we embrace any participants in it. So we're always there for you guys.
Thank you for your time, Dan.
Yep.
So I'll echo the fact that Kate is working diligently to try to bring options forward. So I appreciate the feedback. Mayor, our recommendation is that you move to agenda item number 4.
Remove agenda item number 4?
No, go to agenda item number 4.
1 through 3.
Yes.
Okay, do we need to make a motion to alter that agenda?
I make a motion to remove regular agenda items 1, 2, and 3 from our agenda.
Second. So a motion been made by Counselor Solis, seconded by Counselor Yoder. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And that counts as unanimous. Thank you. This time, let's go ahead and take your break before that food behind us gets cold and gets an opportunity to take a picture. Yes, picture first before you get sauce on your plate. That usually helps. All right, number 4, biennial election of council president.
All right, so every 2 years per our city charter, you guys are going to elect by ballot a council president that will also serve for 2 years. So ahead of you, I've put it at each of the counselor seats. Mayor does not get to vote right now, unless there is a tie. So I would just need each counselor to fill out the ballot that's presented ahead of them, marking one individual that you'd like for council president. And then you can just hand them to the mayor, and then he and I will tally the vote and announce the winner, and then we will take a motion.
It's not a hidden vote. Are you gonna leave everything for that? Would that make sense? I think it's actually, I didn't agree.
All right, so per the ballot votes, we had 1 vote for Counselor Solis and 4 votes for Counselor Siebold. So therefore, Counselor Siebold would be the one that I would need a motion for.
No. Oh.
Of course.
Oh, I was looking at the wrong name.
I didn't want to do.
That's what he just said to me, and I was like, you think about it.
Yeah, just figured it would be better to pass some.
Yeah, no.
Well, good. Now that we have a council president, let's.
We do still need to entertain a motion.
Oh, we
please.
need a motion to,
I'll make the motion to appoint Counselor Siebold as the council president for the 2-year period beginning January 2025 through December 31st, 2026.
I'll second.
have a motion by Counselor Solis, seconded by Counselor Townsend. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thomas, did I say Thomas?
Aye.
I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, it passes unanimous. Sorry, Counselor. Counselor Siebel, I'm gonna be in band camp for a week during, in February. So when we have our, county city meeting, can you sit in my place and harass, Administrator Rasmussen?
It would be an honor. Yes, sir.
Thank you. This one time? Okay. Crack sealer purchase, Jeff.
So, the Public Works Department, what we're proposing and our request tonight is we'd like to replace our crack sealer. The crack sealer that we originally purchased, we bought that back several years ago, and it was kind of an interesting kind of way we got there was Deschutes Valley Water District wanted to help compensate to pay for half of the crack sealing. And so back then they kind of agreed, and this was back in the Ed Pugh days. He said, hey, we want to pay for half because we know you guys are looking to get a crack sealer, and the idea is we want to pay for half, that way we can come and borrow it and use it whenever we want. And so we went and we found a used crack sealer at that time and made a request to council, was approved. We purchased it. Deschutes Valley Water paid for their portion, and we've been crack sealing ever since. What's come up now is we've noticed we outrun our crack sealer, because the crack sealer that we originally purchased back then several years ago was a smaller size unit. And what happens is we get going on some of these streets with larger cracks. The crack sealer can't keep up with our production rates. And so the guys that asked me, they said, hey, we really need to upsize into a larger crack sealer. I said, okay, well, give me some pricing and whatnot. And so they went around and they looked, and they found what they wanted for a crack sealer. And in anticipation for trying to get started earlier this spring, what they'd like to do is we would get the crack sealer now, and that Sealmaster is okay with this, and that we would put up $20,000 deposit, and they would deliver it in the spring. and then request full payment in July, in the next calendar year. And so if we were to purchase this, the way this would go down is we would buy it, and then we would take our existing crack sealer, because Deschutes Valley Water's paid for half. We would then sell that one off, and then 50% of the proceeds would go to Deschutes Valley Water, since they paid for half of it. And so that's kind of the request and the proposal.
So all the details of that arrangement, as far as we pay part and then they deliver it and we pay the rest, that would all be captured in the contract, right? I just want to make sure this isn't all verbal stuff. We want to always be legally protected.
It's right in the quote, page 3. It says right there, lease March, June 25 of 20,000, 100% of the lease will go towards the purchase price, remaining balance due in July.
So
Excellent.
you're actually going to purchase something in this budget, but report it in the next budget. Is that what I'm picking up?
We only have a certain amount of dollars left in this budget for equipment purchases. And so instead of buying the whole thing, the seal master says, hey, if you wanted to get it this year, we're happy with, you pay us 20,000 now, we'll deliver it to you. Let's start using it in March, and you can pay the rest off in your new budget cycle.
But how do we do that reporting on our budget transparently? I only say because I got burned that way in EMS when I tried to do the same thing, and I got spanked by my auditor.
I don't like that idea.
What's our need for it? I mean, can we last till next budget cycle? Is it breaking? Like, what's its current condition?
No, we can wait. We can start with the existing crack sealer and just pay it all in July. Doesn't matter. Well, all we were trying to do was just like, hey, well, we can do it now and get started this spring when we get crack sealing.
We could amend this year's budget.
We don't need to, no, we wouldn't buy it at all this year. It would be proposed in the next fiscal year is what they're saying.
Could you
That's
amend
what
this year's budget? Do you have the revenue and the resources that you could do
That's a
budget
good
resolution?
question.
We do. I
Yeah.
could do that. I could pull from contingency and do that as well. I was trying to just stay within appropriations without having to do budget resolutions.
But the
Yeah, so
asset
The issue
would
is that
be
if it
in-
shows up here in this fiscal year, even if we don't pay for it until next fiscal year, that has to be
It's-
accrued back. And so it could be an
Correct.
audit finding either way.
Okay.
So if you guys have the resources, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it.
Okay.
We could present a budget resolution.
Yeah, it could be done via budget resolution. We have it. All I literally gave was trying to avoid pulling from contingency. I was just trying to stay with.
I just don't want anybody to get spanked.
No.
I got spanked before.
It was
wasn't
just a
fun.
creative way of doing it. So,
Okay.
And Deschutes Valley Water is out on the next deal. It says they have not borrowed the crack sealer, so they don't want to pay for half of the next one, right? Kind of.
no, they do not want to pay for half of them because they never utilized it. So I feel horrible because they paid for half a machine they never used.
But it's like an insurance policy.
So out of curiosity, and I know we haven't seen the numbers and we haven't seen, I think, our more recent quarterly report. But I know this budget cycle, we changed how indirect is handled. And that ended up benefiting public works funds significantly, to where you had a lot more cash on hand. We don't quite yet know the impacts of that, I think, to the general fund, as far as whether they can be, are sustained under the current indirect rates. Would that be correct? Okay, So-
We are seeing the preliminary numbers, and it's definitely hurting general fund. And Jeff and I have been talking about what the future of that looks like and starting to forecast what are our options.
okay. So my concern comes just down to, we've approved a lot of equipment for
Mhm.
public works recently. And so my concern is that we're burning it down because you have all of that excess funds because of that indirect change that we did. But that general fund is going to need to kind of revert back to how it used to be done as far as paying that indirect. And the money might not be there anymore because of the various purchases. So while I'm on board with the budget resolution, if you have the resources, I'd like maybe you, Will, and Kate to kind of touch base and see, is my comments and my concern, is it a genuine concern? Or is it one that's, nope, general fund's gonna be fine, public works is gonna be fine, even if we revert to the old way of doing indirect?
Yeah.
So Counselor
Well-
Solis, how about we do this? How about we table this item until the January 28th meeting? At which time we will come back with you because on the 23rd, you will get, well, this week, you will get the packet that has the first and second quarters of this fiscal year's information in it. So you'll see where that's at. So, but we can, by the 28th, we will have the answers for you.
Yep. That also gives, I think, Jeff and Kate time to look at the budget resolution, if that's a route that.
Yeah,
we
there
wanna
are
go.
other items that we will have to do a budget resolution with.
Perfect.
But this, we could certainly work through this.
That would be my recommendation, just so we can see kind of where general fund, where public works is at. Make sure we're not putting ourselves in a precarious position.
And Jeff, Will, and I do have a meeting on Thursday this week to review this, and the forecasting.
That's fine as well. Like I said, because I mean, we could wait till July even.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Mhm.
Resolution 02-2025 Enterprise Zone School District Support Fee. Brenna, what?
Oh.
What did I skip?
Mayor, you skipped a few items.
Oh, man, I like jumped all the way down the page.
Go home.
Okay, I'll confess, somebody tried to dare me to get out of here early. I'm just.
And meeting adjourned.
All right, just kidding. Number 6, Oregon Department of Energy Solar Grant Agreement. Jeff.
I'm proud to present you guys with our grant agreement from Oregon Department of Energy. This is the $1 million grant for doing the floating solar at the wastewater plant. And so, yes, that's kind of it. I mean, any questions?
I
Not a whole
do.
lot To it.
I do. As far as the value proposition, what we're paying for what we're getting, I love it. So the deal definitely pencils. So I support that. I'm just curious a little bit more about the tech as far as the operational efficiency. Like, what's so great about this concept?
Is there like a specific, like,
Like,
it's
I
kind of
mean,
broad.
yeah, I mean, like, what's the, like, why do we want it? Why would anybody want it? Is this a paperweight? Is it more efficient? Like that, I mean, like
The
what?
solar?
Yeah, like,
It gets rid of my electric bill.
okay, that's what I want to know. Okay.
Yeah, that's
okay.
the whole purpose of doing all this is it takes us to a net zero to where we will have about a $200,000 savings in electricity each year. That's the goal.
So that's amazing. After basically the third year, it pays for itself. Like 2.5 years, we're
Correct.
break even. That's my very favorite type of deal. I love it.
Yeah, Counselor Siebold, we do roughly spend $200,000 a year on the wastewater plant's electric bill. As Jeff pointed out, it would take it to zero. As you know, we also applied for a grant for City Hall because the electric bill here is roughly $80,000 a year, but we were not awarded that grant.
So this is genius. This is very nice work. Public Works, Will, everybody, this is well done.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right.
I
Please
move the,
can-
I move the council approve grant agreement 24-099 Community Renewable Energy Grant Program for the floating solar project in the amount of $1 million.
Second?
Motion by Counselor Siebold, second by Counselor Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? And that is unanimous. Continue, Jeff, City Control Point Network.
Mm-hmm. So this one is one I've been trying to do for quite some time and to kind of explain it, it's a task order to our city engineer, and that's to set up basically monumenting town is the best way to put it, to put in actual benchmarks in town that are established on the city's system for everybody to reference for survey control points. The reason why we're proposing to do this is there's really not a whole lot of true benchmarks left in town that are still there. I think there's about one or two, and the one that most everybody uses is up on 97 somewhere. Now, surveyors over the years have kind of created their own rough benchmarks through town that they use to reference to and whatnot, but there isn't like a set, like if you were to say, here's a benchmark, here's a true elevation, a true coordinate, it's on this planning system that everybody can ties to. And the reason why we're wanting to do this is because what happens is if depending on what coordinate system you're on, you know, and if you're talking about tying in development and property lines, you can be off on elevation. Say one could be 5 feet higher than the other. It's say if it's the elevation 2,220 on this coordinate system, you're 2,230 on the other coordinate system. And so the whole purpose of this is just to tighten up our control within the city. And that's pretty much it. So what I did is I reached out to our city engineer and asked him, I said, okay, if we were going to do this, where would we set these points? Because we'd want to set up enough control throughout the city to establish that anybody coming in could easily access it, because you don't want to go too far, you know, to find a control point. And then you have errors when you jump and say you set up a base station on the original monument, and then you have to move a half mile and create one, and then move a half mile and create one, and move a half a mile. This would have set this in stone within half-mile areas all throughout town. And then would have our City of Madras logo cap and be established and whatnot. And so then any development that would come in and start to do survey, they would have to reference our coordinate system. And then the ultimate goal with this would be also to share this with not only our jurisdiction, but also with the county. So if they're having trouble with lining things up, they can tie our system into their system. And that's all this is. It's just trying to tighten it up.
So does this save the city any staff time or work that? I'm not opposed to it in concept.
Yeah.
But I see the return for probably some of those other entities and being a good partner for them. But I'm not necessarily seeing that return for us.
No, it's not for us. It's just to help development when they come in the door to line things up, and then there's less conflicts when they go to build. That's the driving factor.
Okay. And I see that you're recommending pulling from contingency for that. Is that something you want to pull from contingency, or do you want to punt this item to the next meeting as well? If you were looking at the seal master and potentially pulling contingency there.
We could do that as well. If we could just bring them back at both items, or we can wait and do this later. I mean, there's lots of different avenues, so.
Do we have to use McCoy, or is it because can we ask for somebody else to do it, or another bid from somebody else, or do we have to use McCoy?
They're our city engineer, and quite honestly, that's who I trust to do it. Yeah.
I'll have to say with my experience too, McCoy's good. Just I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of their work, and also I've seen problems with surveying. So it's
Yeah.
a really important piece when it comes to development in my perspective.
Yeah, it's more of Gabe, it's more of a trying to help be more proactive and prepared for development. That's this avenue.
So this is my opinion, and I've worked with McCoy on a number of different things, and we had some real issues with them, so that's why I'm not a fan of McCoy at all personally. So I've worked with a lot of surveyors in building houses and things, and this is the one that I just wouldn't work with. I don't know if it's just because of an issue that we had on a project or what the deal was, but I wasn't happy at all. That's
Understood. Right.
Can I ask off that, are we on an annual with McCoy, and when did we sign, please remind, when did we re-up with them, and when does that current contract end?
We're on a 5-year, and I couldn't tell you when it ends. I'd have to go back and look. It's coming up in maybe a year or two. And so where we would go back out, but honestly, the history and the service they provided to the city, it would be very hard pressed for me to want to change to somebody else. You know, we've tried other engineering outfits in the wastewater industry side of things, and I've never been happy with those other entities. So I always keep coming back for any type of city engineering. As far as what we do, I've always gone back to Haynes.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
I am not super familiar with this concept, but are there recent projects that have had issues because we do not have control points?
Yeah, One in particular, I mean, if you can look at the J Street Bridge, that's on a different coordinate system. That was the engineer who designed it on a coordinate system that didn't line up with where everything was geospatially, it's the correct word. So when we actually got out there to go build it, there was a massive skew, and it ended up in us having to, because it didn't get found until after the piles were driven. And so then we had to figure out how to get that corrected and fixed.
I
It
think,
wasn't good. It wasn't fun. Yeah.
I think where I'm at is I don't want to rush into this. We talked about contingency with the other part, the crack sealer. I would be inclined to pump the brakes. I'm worried about the budget. I don't think this is urgent. So I kind of want to get my head around more about these processes and the value. So I personally would probably not be inclined to move forward on this at this point.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing.
I think this is something that we should probably visit a little bit later though, just because we do want to make it easier for development for sure, because that's the direction that we're going as a city.
Right.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Good point.
And that's fine, because honestly, this is not a project that's gonna go quickly. It's gonna take time. So when we want to pull the trigger, that's perfectly fine.
Is this also above the state's new procurement limits? And so wouldn't we need to do? above
We
procurement
have a contract with H.A. McCoy. We have a 5-year contract, and so we just issue task orders, and then for that, I just bring you task orders under their larger contract.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments on that? Local government authorization designate funding to service providers, recycling funds to MSS. Michelle?
Thank you. Probably for the last couple of years, I've been meeting with DEQ and also Madras Sanitary. I'm what's it called? I'm on the waste management team. But anyway, DEQ and the state has put together, a new program. It was actually, it's called the Recycling Modernization Act. It's our Senate Bill 582, where they have designated funding that allows the local different recycling and waste management people to apply for this funding, but it has to be applied through local government. So if Madras Sanitary would like to apply for this funding, they have to apply for it through us. So we're like the pass-through. Doesn't cost us any money. We're just the pass-through. It's because it's a state-ran grant. The local governments have to do the grants, and then we pass the money through. So Melanie would come up with a project. She would pass it through us, and then we would help her apply for that. She'll probably be doing the same thing with Jefferson County for the transfer station if they want to do any improvements out there. So really what I'm asking, or what we're asking you guys is, are you okay with this? Doesn't cost the city any money, but the mayor just still has to sign and say that it's okay for them to be able, for us to be the pass-through for the funding.
I'm okay with this if we also charge indirect on it so that we're getting a small portion, because there's still staff time involved, whether that's yours, Jeff's, or Kate and her team in finance. There's still some level of work. And so we should be charging indirect on this. Again, just referencing back to the county, because that's my experience. We have several entities that we collect the money because we're eligible for it as the county, as a government organization, but we pass it through. Best Care is a good example, that millions of dollars pass through the county being directed to Best Care. But there's a level of work involved between public health and finance that we do charge indirect on that, so that we're getting some small cut out of it. So I'd be in agreement as long as we have that.
That seems reasonable to me.
I have to look at the funds to see if it allows For the indirect.
Would that sort of arrangement require us to modify this resolution or the paperwork involved in this?
No,
Ye-
no, we already have all the paperwork was already, put in the packet. It would just be the mayor signing that and then whenever she has, like I said, it doesn't start until July of this year is when everything starts to go into effect. And I've talked to Melanie a little bit about what she thought she might be maybe asking for and doing things like enlarging the recycling area up off of Mill Street. They will probably need some additional carts because they're going to be required to put out for more recycling and just some different things like that. And that's part of what this bill is made for. And I think it's kind of cool. It's so the companies that are producing the items that have to be recycled are the ones that are paying for the grant. So if you have a company that produces certain kind of takeout stuff or plastic jugs that can be recycled, they're the ones that's helping pay for this. So it's not coming out of, well, we will probably all absorb it later, but that's where the funding is, or the idea is, and the funding's coming from.
So one thing that I just heard Jeff say over here quietly, does the bill actually allow the city to charge
The
for that
indirect.
pass-through? Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'd have to look at it.
I hate to suggest kicking another item.
Well, let's ask this. I mean, let's say hypothetically we can't charge. Would we no longer do it or would we still do it anyway? Because if we'd still do it anyway, we see it's a worthy program, there's no reason not to go ahead and pass it. We don't need to know that before we pass it.
Yeah, I agree. I'd want to do it either way, at least for myself.
Maybe a follow-up question to that would be how much staff time on finance and public works is this gonna take? How much work and effort are you guys going to be putting in on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis, whatever that looks like?
With this being a new program, it's hard to say because Melanie will actually turn it all in and she should do, turn in her project with all of the stuff and then we would just submit it to DEQ and then and it's gonna, if it's like anything else that they, most of the governments do, it's all on a reimbursement basis. So then she would have to send me all of her reimbursements and then I would collect it and we hit submit and send it back to DEQ.
What kind of liability does that put the city on as far as that submission?
I don't think we're putting out any dollars. It's-
No.
Right, okay, yeah. But you're talking liability because if we failed to submit it incorrectly or something, she doesn't get
Yeah.
our money? That's a good question, I don't know. Maybe,
I move the council approves the mayor to sign the local government funding authorization form.
I second.
I have a motion by Counselor Seabold, second by Counselor Bell. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
We have one opposed, the majority wins the day. It does happen. Donation of public works equipment, Jeff.
okay, we on kind of a annual or biennial basis, kind of go through our equipment, that we're no longer utilizing. And we will put it on publicsurplus.com to sell it off like an online auction set up for public entities, right? But prior to doing that, and we were kind of going through that process right now on some of the older equipment, but prior to doing that, there was a request because we had 95 Chevy flatbed pickup that the fire department said, hey, we could really use a flatbed pickup. And they said, is anybody getting rid of anything? We said, well, we're getting rid of this one. And so they made a request that they said, before you guys either send it back to enterprise through the new fleet program to sell or put it on public surplus, could we have it? Same thing there. We had our John Deere mower that we wanted to get rid of, and the Jefferson County Buildings and Grounds, Tony over there, has been looking for a mower, really wants it. And so they put in a request. Part of the staff report, you can see, I had them submit a letter just saying, hey, what did you guys want to do? If you want it or not, just submit us a request and I'd bring it to council to consider. It's totally allowable to donate equipment interagency. In fact, if you look at our, well, it says right there, oh, we did put it in there. Oh, look at that. I was smart. So I actually pulled the clause out of the ordinance talking about getting rid of surplus material, surplus property. So you can see that we can dispose of it by any commercial reasonable methods. So that includes, we could donate to an agency, a nearby agency, if so be it. So
Out of curiosity, does that policy require the council to declare something surplus before the city administrator has the power to make those decisions? Because it looks like he has if I'm reading this correctly,
He
has
does.
that authority to decide whether to donate this or not. But do we have to, as council, say this is now surplus property?
So, no, you do not. You don't have to say it's surplus property. He has full authority. Just from the previous administrator I worked for, he just said, I'd still like you best policy to just bring it to city council. And so I'm just doing what I've always done. So that's it.
Question for you. So, as far as reciprocity, the county, do they ever donate equipment to us?
I've never asked them for anything, to tell you the truth.
So where I'm at is that it kind of different frames of analysis. I understand the whole interagency cooperation. We're all on the same team, yada, yada. That's wonderful. We all like that. But, we do want to be good stewards of our tax money, and this is an asset that we had. So I guess the question would be, if we did try to sell it in some other capacity, how much would we get? And then you just get the logistics of, are we chasing our tail? If it's only going to be a couple $100 and we're having a person work on it, at a certain point, it just doesn't pencil out, and it's better to take the goodwill of donating it versus trying to actually sell it and get an ROI. So that's where I'm at. I'd be curious what I know you don't know definitely, but just ballpark. What kind of valuation do we see on these two items?
So the pickup, it's a 95, pickups, couple thousand, $3,000, $4,000, 2,500 to 5, somewhere in there on the pickup would be my guess. What if we auctioned it off? The mower, we could probably get a couple, 1,500, couple $1,000 maybe for it, maybe.
So, I mean, it's tough for me to see why not. Why wouldn't we just sell them and throw that in the general fund rather than giving it to the county? Unless we've established a relationship with the county where they're giving us stuff and we're giving them stuff and there's a reciprocity. But absent reciprocity, I'd be inclined to sell it.
And I agree with that, Mike. I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult either here, but it is taxpayers' fund, and I mean, it's taxpayers' money, right? And the other thing is we're trying to find money for other things that we need, for police, for the RVs that are parked around that need to be removed, but we're short on money to be able to deal with that. It's one thing to keep the money in the family, but as friends, I'm not giving you my car because you're going to give me your car later on. I'd rather just trade money and do it fairly that way so that there's not any, I don't know, hard feelings or, from anybody, because somebody from the community might go, oh, that's interesting. Why did they just give that to them? So I'd rather see the money kept in the city, honestly.
And for council, if you wish to go that route, what I would recommend is we look at the source on what paid for the equipment. If it came out of a specific fund, it goes back to that specific fund. It doesn't necessarily go back to general fund if we sell it.
Yeah, this would all go back to Public Works fleet.
I think there's a level that I agree with, on requiring the other agencies to purchase. In fact, county works with Deschutes County especially on getting vehicles from them. Several of our sheriff's department vehicles are Deschutes County vehicles. That they only ride them for a year and a half maybe before they're going to dispose of them, and we're getting essentially brand new Chargers for pennies on the dollar. We got 3 or 4 of them early 2024 or even late 23. There were 2023 Dodge Chargers fully outfitted. We paid Deschutes County $5K for them each. So total 15, 20K that we paid for basically brand new vehicles for the sheriff. So I'm not opposed to that concept, but there's also a flip side of it that I think, we haven't always had the greatest relationship with the county as a city. And, I think that we also haven't always had that strong of a relationship with the fire department as a city. So there's also a level of it that do we want to deal with getting a couple thousand over this or try to strengthen those relationships? I would be in favor of going ahead and donating these. They've made the request, it's come before us. I don't have a problem with it, but if we maybe want to revisit our surplus property policy and put in there that we'll give first dibs to those other organizations and at a significant discount. So if we could get $4,000 for a truck, maybe we offer it for half to neighboring jurisdictions, and an email goes out from city to fire district, school district, county, so on and so forth, saying, hey, we've got this public surplus. Anyone want it? No? Okay, goes to public surplus. My 2 cents.
I will tell you that our relationship with both fire and the county is much better than it was. And in exchange, we are receiving benefits from the county for things that we wouldn't have gotten before. So strengthening that relationship, as Councilor Solis mentioned, is valuable to the city, and that's why Jeff is bringing this forward, because I can guarantee you that we get a bigger benefit back end when we do things like this. And if it's the value piece, we can certainly reach out to the fire department and the county and say, this is what we see as the value. Are you willing to pay X? And come back with that. It's not as easy as just making that call. There's some other aspects to it. But I can tell you that Jeff wouldn't have brought this forward if he didn't see that it would directly benefit the city in the long run.
I'd also point out that, yes, Will has definitely improved drastically our relationships with both the county and the city. It's between the county and the city, and also with the fire department. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw out a motion. Council approve the donating the 1995 Chevy flatbed pickup to Jefferson County Fire District, and approve donating the John Deere ride-on mower to Jefferson County Buildings and Grounds Department.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilor Solis, second by Councilor Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Nay.
I didn't say any names yet.
Jump the gun.
Is there any opposed?
Nay. Nay.
So if I count that correctly, it's 3 yes and 2 no. So it's so majority for yes. Thank you. That's the closest.
To having a tie vote, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll throw out there, if it might not be a bad idea to go ahead and bring that policy at some point to us in the future and to revise, because then we can set it in policy that that's how we want our public surplus to be handled, give first dibs, but maybe to Councilor Siebold's and Yoder's point, I tried to combine your names there. Jeez, I need to go to sleep, man. To their points, we do want to have a little bit, so bring it back and maybe we can put that into policy where we give them the first dibs at a discounted rate.
Should we call it the first dibs policy?
Absolutely. Please do. We'll adjust that in council.
All right. Moving on, property acquisition from Opportunity Foundation for Olive Street right away. Jeff.
Okay. So we are we actually have our project out for bid right now. So for doing Olive Street, just to kind of back up, to kind of recap how we got to the project and whatnot. It was, I cannot remember the year, maybe 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there. There was a development that came forward to do a mini storage on Olive Street. And part of the requirements for that development was to improve their adjacent right-of-ways. And they were right smack in the middle of Olive Street. And so for them to improve their adjacent right-of-ways to a 3/4 standard, they would basically have a paved street with gravel on both sides. And so we made recommendation and to them to say, hey, let's go see if MRC is willing to help out to basically add money to that, to pave all of Olive Street from the mini storage down to Fairground. So we didn't have a break of you're on paved, you hit gravel, then you hit paved, right? And so, kind of how that all worked was, the land use decision basically, required them to pay, $70,000 as an improvement fee towards their adjacent improvements. The idea was we would collect system development charges from them as well, and what system development charges that were eligible to be used for the project would be applied towards the project. And then MRC gave a grant to the remainder to kind of get to, at that time, about, we thought, $400,000. So to do all this. So this was, gosh, my memory's fading, but was it 21? It was like 21 when the request came through. So that request happened. The developer then ended up, it didn't move forward right away, but they ended up going forward with their land use, and then moving forward with getting construction plan approval. And then they started into construction. I believe they're still under construction. They're not 100% complete. They're maybe 80% of the way done, and still working on it. So, but because of that, then it was back onto us because that we needed to go ahead and do the design and basically put it out to bid to pave Olive Street. So, knowing that MRC originally contributed 280, but also knowing that MRC funding was kind of really tight and there was overcommitments when we put together the budget, I was talking with Kate and she asked, "Hey, can we reduce that contribution amount, say to like 150?" And we said, "Sure." So we sat down and worked out the math and kind of said, okay, at that point in time it was 280, but we could probably still do the project with MRC contributing 150. And then transportation ops would kind of pick up the difference. And so, that's kind of the history of where we got to today. We've now gotten the design done, and in order to get it finished and get to bid, and we're actually out in bid right now, but to get the project built is we have to acquire a section of property because the existing right-of-way next to OFCO is only 30 feet wide and does not line up directly with the intersecting driveway across the street from Fairgrounds, and so they would have been offset. And so I approached Opportunity Foundation and said, okay, we'd like to acquire some property from you to build this. They were good with that. We proposed them a cost, and the way I've always done that is looked at the RMB value on the assessor's report as to what the RMB is, come up with a value of the square footage of land. I proposed that to them. They were actually happy with that. They've agreed to go ahead and sell us this piece of the land. And what's attached before you guys is the actual purchase and sale agreement for us to go buy that and then acquire that and then dedicate that as right away. Kind of the big part of the reason why I kind of went through that whole spiel is we're out for bid now, but looking at newer updated estimates, I feel like we're going to be closer to about 600,000 to do everything that we were proposing to do, just difference between 2021 and 2024. But I have a plan to fund that. And so when you look on the back page, you can see what I'm proposing on how to fund that. And so if you look there under fiscal information, talks about the project costs. You can also see I've attached an engineer's estimate and then to the back. So you can see how I came up with the project costs related to that, and then kind of how we will fund that. And there's a developer contribution. There's 70. We have improvement fee fund dollars that we were collected on Olive Street that can be applied towards this project. So we proposing to utilize all of that money. And then of course you can see the change in the MRC funding. So taking it down from the 280 to the 150, TOF dollars still that's the difference between the two of those from when it was at 280. And then of course SDC charges, because we're allowed to expend up to 58% of the project cost on roads that were never built. to put towards substandard roads. And so we have the funding available in the fund to utilize it. That's what it's for. It's for capital projects. So I figured, okay, we can still do this project. We can still lower MRC's contribution to help out, use STCs and kind of commingle everything. So that's a very long-winded explanation, but there's a lot going on here. And so I didn't want to just kind of go, here's a purchase and sale agreement for a piece of property. I wanted you guys to see kind of everything. This has been 3 or 4 years in the making.
So question.
Yeah.
The $19,000 that we're paying them, if somebody comes in and develops that property, will the city be charging them for that in order to recoup that money then? Because I know somebody's looking at purchasing that property and that's gonna have an upgraded street, so you won't go back and charge.
Nope.
I'm just curious on
The
that.
city could put in and request, we could set up our own reimbursement district to recoup our funds. We've done that one other time where we did a project ourselves, and today that's never panned out. It just doesn't work. And so we've always kind of said, if it's us building it, no, we would never go back on somebody, and they gain the benefit of the road improvements already there. Hopefully that makes that property that much more attractive because it's less cost for the developer to do.
I got you. It's just, if a developer would have been there developing right now, he would have.
Oh, he would have had
charged
to
with
pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why whether it's now or later, but then again, the longer we wait, probably the higher prices we're gonna get also for a bid and for construction costs of the street, so I understand that too.
All right, so this is, I appreciate the long explanation. It's a complicated one, it's convoluted. So this is just crazy to me. So the original project in 20 was 400 and now we're at 633. This was before the MRC was considering a value proposition as far as investing the money in a way that got a certain ROI, bang for the buck. And I'm curious, interest rates and all the deal and that kind of stuff. I don't know. This is crazy to me. I'm not too enthusiastic about this. Do we have any idea what our ROI on this? I know you're not the MRC, Jeff, so probably not fair to ask you that. It's more of a question for the MRC, but I don't know.
Well, just back up. The MRC has already committed 280. You're already stuck with that. What I'm proposing is to reduce the contribution from.
No, I understand that completely. I'm not like reevaluating, can we do it or not? I totally get it, but it informs my existing thought process and the way to approach this. If I understand the net value contribution to the city of Madras vis-a-vis the MRC. That's all I was trying to understand, is the dynamical operation as far as what we approve and don't approve, et cetera.
I think that value proposition comes in paving an unpaved street.
Correct.
Part
You're
of
getting-
our council goals is to get to a point where we have 100% of the streets within city limits that are paved and not gravel. So I think this would get us there. And like Councilor Yoder said, I think waiting, we'll just see this cost increase even more, right? So.
I mean, you're right, waiting will, but yeah, that's true of all streets. So why this street? We have a lot of streets we wouldn't be able to pave all of it. So the fact that it is a net benefit as far as paving a street is good. I agree with you. And that is laudable, consistent with the MRC goals. It doesn't necessarily mean that every street in every situation would be good.
So, Mayor Lapine and Council, one of the thoughts behind this project for the MRC was, this is an old county road that wasn't on their maintenance list. We have lots of properties in this neighborhood that are underutilized. And so by starting to get the paving in this neighborhood, it's likely going to increase the interest in redevelopment or development of the vacant lots in this neighborhood. It also is consistent with the transportation system plan that we're trying to get some connectivity north and south in this neighborhood, even to connect up with Lois Lane in that area. So the broader thought was for redevelopment on a residential and commercial basis.
So, and that brings another question to my mind. So it is on the plan for the Southwide Transportation Committee to run Olive Street through, correct?
No. Olive Street doesn't go through. Olive Street you got the mini storage on it, you got the Offco, you got the existing one to the north, plus then you have existing residential homes up and down Olive Street.
Right.
Years ago, a couple years prior to Olive Street, we did Marie Street. And that was to fix that road for those residents. And kind of the idea behind this one was a couple of different ways. One, we want to pave all gravel roads in town and not have gravel roads.
Yeah.
Two, it helps potential future development, the existing development that's there. And then also, you have existing residents that live on a gravel road and trying to give them a paved street.
Right.
That was the thought process behind everything.
Okay, gotcha. So it's not a plan for it to go through to the, past the truck stop or?
Olive Street isn't, Marie Street is. So
Oh,
that's
okay,
one
I
over.
got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yep.
got you. Okay, thanks.
I move that council approves the purchase and sale agreement between the city and Opportunity Foundation of Central Oregon in the amount of $19,314 and authorizes the city administrator to sign the document.
I second. Motion made by Counselor Sully, seconded by Counselor Yoder. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And it's unanimous. Thank you, Jeff. Number 11, ordinance number 991, an ordinance amending the Madras Transportation System Plan to adopt the South Madras Concept Area Refinement Plan. This time we'll open up any opportunity for any public to present questions or comments. Yes, please come up and introduce yourself.
I apologize for the mask, but I have a fairly decent cold. I didn't want to give it to anyone, so.
Appreciate that.
My name is Kathy May, and I am the Executive Director for the Madras Community Food Pantry. I'm really here to urge the city to approve this transportation safety or plan as quickly as possible because we are, the county, I think you probably know, has in the process of purchasing a building for us on the Culver Highway. However, our plan is to build on that piece of property because it's not going to be big enough for us. So we need this area to be removed from the transportation plan so that we can, in the spring, probably apply for a CDBG grant to add on to this. And we can't do that otherwise. So the county has until I think the end of the month to close on the property, and they're not going to do it if this plan is not adopted. So we'll be out of a place to live once again.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to make a comment or question? Okay, then entertain a motion to have it read by, ordinance read by title only.
I move that we read ordinance number 991 by title only.
Do we have a second?
I second this
Second.
motion.
We have a motion by Counselor Sully, second by Counselor Seabolt. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? It's unanimous. Nick?
Ordinance,
And Joanna has to.
Oh,
read.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're on to C now.
An ordinance amending the Madras Transportation System Plan to adopt the South Madras Concept Area Refinement Plan.
Thank you. Here's an opportunity for the council to present questions or comments.
So I do have one question, more of a concern, I think. We provided the formal action to approve these proposed amendments at the October 8th meeting. And we knew at that time that the food pantry was looking to move into this building. So we were aware at that point in time of their timeline and what they were looking to do. And I'm concerned that it took so long to get to us after we had already provided that formal action. The proposed amendments were already there. We already knew them at the time of our October 8th. We were aware of the needs of an organization within our community. And then it's taken several months to come before us. So curious as to that fact and what happened and how we can ensure that things like this move a little bit faster to provide that service. I know the food pantry has had a little bit of heartache over not knowing where we're going. Sounds like the county has also been putting off purchasing the property, not knowing how city council will vote. I am 100% in favor of it, as previous council was by a motion already made. So like a little bit of information on that.
Normally we do bring your ordinances back to you a little quicker. Had some workload and priority issues. I needed to prioritize other urban growth boundary work related to large lot industrial during the months of October and November. That took an exceedingly amount of my time. I would also respectfully note that after the county administrator emailed me his concern for the timing of this ordinance being brought to the council, that he nor anyone else at the county had identified that this ordinance was upholding that transaction previously. So I had no understanding that this ordinance and this plan amendment was even related to it. So I didn't know that there was even a problem. So when he disclosed that to me, I said, we will put it on the January agenda.
I move to approve and adopt ordinance number 991, an ordinance amending the Madras Transportation System Plan to adopt the South Madras Concept Area Refinement Plan.
I'll second.
Motion made by Counselor Seabold, second by Counselor Solis. Any further discussion?
We have to do a roll call vote.
I was getting to that.
Oh, good job.
I wanted to see if there's any other further discussion.
Gotcha.
Hearing none, Kelly, can we get a roll call vote?
You betcha. All right, Counselor Thomas,
Aye.
Counselor Seabold,
Aye.
Counselor Solis,
Aye.
Counselor Bell,
Aye.
Counselor Yoder.
Aye.
Mayor, your motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. It's unanimous. Yeah, we're on a roll now. So back to resolution 01-2025, resolution prohibiting truck parking in the downtown. Jeff. You don't often get applauded to come up and speak.
And I'm done. No, and you guys may have questions and you may want to make changes, and that's perfectly fine. By all means, please do so. After the discussion about the no parking, no trucks in the downtown, the chief and I got together, we did a drive-through to try to identify where we believed where the issues were. If we are missing the mark, and that's quite all right, we can amend to include additional areas or take out, that's perfectly fine. So, but this is the resolution that we thought this is where the issues were, and so it would make those sections as no truck parking in the downtown. If there's more, by all means, let me know.
I would be in favor of all throughout the downtown corridor.
Yes.
None of it, no trucks. I think we've got plenty of places for them to go. Love's Travel Stop. We have the old truck stop. There's, the plaza. There's plenty of places for them to go that I would be in favor of just throughout that whole downtown corridor. No semi-trucks parking.
I agree with Counselor Solis.
Yeah, I agree.
I am also in agreement.
I agree with that also because honestly, right there by Taco Bell, and we're talking C this way, even B Street, because they park right in front of Taco Bell and you can't go across the street there, and almost had how many accidents right there specifically because of that.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, actually, that we, from what I could see, at least extended another block to B, because I have seen accidents on B Street, like you just mentioned, and also I was gonna say extended at least another block the other direction, but I like the idea of going the whole way.
I think there's plenty of other locations for them to park, and it's so difficult to see what traffic is coming to be able to pull out, especially at night. Becomes an even greater issue. Can't see pedestrians if they're trying to cross. There's a lot of safety concerns to it. A lack of, engagement and involvement of people wanting to spend time in our downtown because there's nowhere to park because the semi's already taken up half the block. So do you need this to come back to us, or can I just make a motion to approve this resolution
I'm
with the
looking
changes
at
as we've
city
discussed?
attorney there to tell me, can they change it and amend the resolution now, or do I need to retype one up?
No, you could amend the current one you have.
Yes, I think
Okay.
we would- you can amend. I think the council in this matter, it is, of course, policy. And it's simple to make some changes to address that issue.
I think public safety ultimately trumps parking convenience, so I think this is a great idea to expand it. And I'll let Sleece make the resolution.
Mr. Mayor, can I also offer something else too? Some of the complaints that come in and have come into my office is commercial bus parking along north and south, not so much the southbound side, but the northbound side. When that happens, it also causes not only a vehicle traffic problem, but a pedestrian traffic problem as well. So, and there is definitely a designation difference between commercial motor vehicles or trucks and buses in the vehicle code. So I don't know if if it's a differentiate, it needs to be in this document as well. But I have encouraged those coach operators to park somewhere other than where they park, and it's a matter of walking a half a block for their passengers as opposed to having them park what they do and then have pedestrians back and forth across that northbound lane all the time, causing problems. So just something, if we're going to open this up, to maybe something to also consider for that, because they also a visibility problem, but it's also a traffic problem when they do that and come through town and occupy that whole alley, even on the side streets there between the 4th and 5th Street. So just I thought if we were going to make it a point of conversation to include those.
Thank you, Chief, for bringing that up, because all of us went, oh, yes, that too.
How would you propose we add that amendment in? Because it sounds like they fall under a different classification. So would we want to phrase the amendment to this resolution in such a way that we're providing a length limit to any sort of motor vehicle?
I would entertain the idea and could probably, I don't want to have to try and bring it back, but charter bus or commercial bus, because we don't want to restrict our school buses because they do come through there on those side streets, making their approach, especially here to the kids club and then down here at the other intersection in order to make their passage. So we don't want those restricted, but we definitely want those charter commercial buses not to be offloading 60 passengers at a time. So that's what they're referred to as charter coaches. So I don't
Would that
know
be
if that's
sufficient
too
to
restrictive
include?
or that doesn't meet the,
No truck and bus parking.
there you go. That could be it. So
If that's
Everybody-
sufficient, I'll make that motion to approve resolution 01-2025, extending it throughout the entirety of the downtown corridor, prohibiting
No-
bus and truck parking, commercial truck
And
parking.
when you say downtown, are we talking couplet, right? We're talking 4th and 5th, north Y to south Y, right? Kind of I'm assuming.
yeah, I would go couplet to couplet because
Yeah.
we've had the opportunity to have a conversation with commercial motor vehicle drivers stopped there to just run out and get themselves a Starbucks blocking that northbound lane. Just
Yeah.
saying.
I'm trying to think, I don't think we typically have many semis parking after the South Y.
Well, and I didn't know if, when you say downtown, I also think of like 6th Street, which is a block over from 4th and 5th.
Okay.
But are
Yeah.
you guys okay with that?
I think I would be personally.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's semi trucks, just like Plummer was saying, there's semi trucks that are parking right there in front of my office, right there at and that's right where everybody's merging, and all of a sudden there's a semi truck parked there and somebody almost smashed right into the back of a semi truck, and I go, oh boy, just a crash waiting to happen, because they are going to Starbucks.
They can easily turn right by your office and park behind your office on that street. So,
And you're correct, Councilman. That's where Jeff and I went. We went down that far, and while we were there, actually a truck pulled in there and started to park. So the other thing is we do have a city ordinance about commercial motor vehicles parking off into those areas, north and south, or actually east and west of 4th and 5th Street. they're prohibited from being back in there anyway, because there's just not enough room for them to turn or navigate. If they're not back there making a delivery, they really can't just park back there.
So then if I may, just to help with the motion, that you approve resolution 01-2025, amending it to include Fourth and Fifth Street from the north Y to the south Y.
I will accept that amendment to my motion.
I'll second.
So
Okay, I got a motion from Counselor Solis, seconded by Counselor Thomas, with a very sharp third by Counselor Yoder. Any further discussion or amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
So-
opposed?
Oh, sorry.
Any opposed? One more round of applause for Jeff.
Well, I just had one quick comment. This is a lot of signs. So yeah, it's gonna take me some time to get them in, just FYI.
So don't expect
Which
it
I have
tomorrow.
no problem doing it. And we'll get it all done. Just, it will take me a while to get, there's probably gonna be like 50, 60 signs I gotta put up.
You
So
got that right, Counselor Yoder? So
Yeah.
he doesn't want to hear you call Thursday.
you know, there's about 12 hours until 8 a.m. tomorrow. I think you find is work through the night.
just eyes wide open. That's
Right.
all I'm saying.
And then I think that then turns into chief that I think that council wants you and your crew to be enforcing those rules. So have some fun.
I will also push out a social media post and I'll have Jeff review it before I do because that is our number one message on social media.
Right. Okay.
All right. Resolution 02-2025 Enterprise Zone School District Support Fee. Brenna?
Good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I wish that my resolution that I'm presenting on was as exciting as the previous one. Tough act to follow. But I'm pretty thank you. So I am presenting tonight on the Enterprise Zone School Support Fee. Let me kind of start off by giving a quick overview on the Oregon Enterprise Zone. I'll just do a quick refresher. So it is a tax abatement program on new plant and or equipment investments for new or expanding traded sector businesses. Two main goals: attract business investment, encourage job creation. There's a 3-year program, a 5-year program, and a 15-year program. The 3-year program has a $50,000 minimum, 10% new job creation for existing firms, or 1 new job for new firms. The 5-year program, same as the above, average compensation for net new jobs needs to exceed 130% of the county median wage. And then there's also a 15-year program, which has a $12.5 million minimum investment or $250 million with a lower employment requirement. But also net new jobs at 130% of the county median wage. So tonight we're talking about the school support fee. So what is the school support fee? During the 2023 legislative session, House Bill 2009 was passed. The bill included information about the school support fee, and it's a fee to be paid to school districts by businesses who are granted property tax exemptions through the Enterprise Zone program. So that is both the standard Enterprise Zone program and the long-term rural program. And it begins on year 4 and 5 of the standard Enterprise Zone and years 6 through 15 of the long-term rural Enterprise Zone. So the support fees are set by each district. So the school districts, both Culver and 509J in Jefferson County, both approved a 15% fee. The fee will be paid directly to the school district from the company, and we being EDCO would work with the county on that process. So what's really kind of interesting is the fee money will not benefit the school district's budget, and that its state school fund distribution is then reduced dollar for dollar. But again, this is something that came down from the legislature. Wasn't something that the EDOs necessarily asked for or the school districts asked for, but it was something that was put forth. Next slide, please. So again, the fee is collected in years 4 and 5, and then for the standard Enterprise Zone program, and then in years 6 through 15 for the long term. And then next slide, please. Who pays the school support fee? So the school support fee is paid directly to the district, as mentioned, by the company receiving the extended 4 to 5 year or the long-term rural enterprise zone abatement. The district is required to invoice the company based on their annual tax savings calculated by the county in years 4 and 5, or that 6+ for the long-term rural. The governing body of the zone sponsor, an EDCO will work with the county assessor's office to provide the district with all the necessary information. All right. So this next slide is more from the school district's perspective. And when we had these conversations with the school district, we made sure to let them know the benefits of the enterprise zone program. Having an incentive is excellent in increasing our employment base and raising, a rising tide lifts all ships. All right. So what happens if the fee is not paid by the business? So the company does not pay the school fee within 60 days of the due date. The school board is required to give written notice to the company and the county assessor's office. Something to mention here, and it's also in the staff report, is that this process does not add anything additional for city staff. It's primarily EDCO will be working with the school districts on this process. All right, so that covers my really exciting presentation. And I would entertain any questions that you might have.
Brenna, we essentially don't have a choice on this, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for stating that.
What, out of curiosity, what happens if we were to vote against this?
It's one of those things that I haven't really thought of.
I'm very curious because the way my understanding, and I've heard your presentation twice now, once to the county commissioners, once here, but my understanding is we don't have a choice. It's moving forward either way. I'd be kind of curious to see what happens if we voted against it, what would come down the pike, but I also don't know if I want to cause issues for the city with anything else. So, yeah, I'll leave it with that.
I move the council adopt resolution 02-2025 to adopt enterprise zone school district fee.
Second. You beat me.
Motion by Councilor Seabolt, second and very quickly by Councilor Yoder. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And it's unanimous. Thank you. At this point, let's take a 5-minute break. All right, let's reconvene. Number 14, appoint, yeah, it is number 14, appointment of Truett Schilling and Heather Crow Martinez. Nick?
Yes, so Tony Mitchell and Cindy Potter were members of the Homeless Advisory Committee. The council appointed them. And both of which have retired on December 31st of 2024, and then January 15th, which would be tomorrow. And both represent community partners that we really need on the committee and participation on this committee. When they identified that they would be retiring and leaving their current position, we asked if the new director from the shelter would be interested. And he said, yes, absolutely. And also Heather Crow Martinez of Best Care said, yes, she would like to serve on the committee as well. So with that regard, I'm requesting the council appoint those two individuals to the Homeless Advisory Committee member, or as members to the Homeless Advisory Committee.
Don't think either of them are here today.
I move to appoint Truett Schilling and Heather Crow Martinez to the Homeless Advisory Committee.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Solis, seconded by Counselor Thomas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Nick. Committee list review and approval. Kelly.
All right, so I asked at our last meeting if you guys wanted to do this in a work session or at the council meeting, and it was decided at council. So last year, unless you guys are opposed to this, last year we kind of moved through it pretty quickly by going through, and the things written in green are things that we already know are applicable changes. The things that are in red or vacant are things that we would need to make immediate changes on. So if you guys aren't opposed, I'll just kind of go page by page and we'll make changes. This particular page will be filled in after because we'll go through them individually on their own individual sheets. Do you have any questions first before I get going? Okay, so I'm going to skip that page because that one will get filled in with the appropriate markers as we assign. I don't believe that we have any changes on the staff committee assignments. Everything, I sent this out to staff to review it themselves, so I don't believe that there were any immediate changes there, but we'll catch them on the other pages as well. Just to recap, so in 2024, airport industrial meeting met 11 times. Budget committee for the city met 3 times. Budget for the MRC met once. We held city council 28 times, and the Homeless Advisory Committee 10, joint city county we held 6, MRC 18 meetings, Planning Commission 10, and Urban Forestry 6. So on the Airport Industrial Site Committee, the Public Works Manager, Michelle, used to run this, but now Lorraine is the one running the meeting. So we went ahead and made that change up there at the top. Trevor Beaver has requested for reappointment. Chris Tetro has requested for reappointment. Tom Brown has requested for reappointment, and Eddie Fuller has. So those are memos that Lorraine has received, and all of them are asking for reappointment. Trevor was actually reappointed last year, and so that one is a correction that needs to be made. And then Bill Randolph has resigned, so there will be 1 vacant position on that committee. So, and then we have Counselor Yoder and Mayor Lapine that are serving as primary and alternate on that committee. Are there any changes that you guys would like there? All right.
I'm going to just jump in and throw out for our couple counselors that haven't gone through this. If there's something that you want to serve in, speak up, because we may just say no change as the rest of us. We may be content in what we're doing, but if it's something that piques your interest, please throw it out there because we can adjust and move these around. You don't have to serve in the capacity that the previous counselors in your positions did, being Townsend and Walker. You can switch it up. So speak out.
Correct.
I actually have an interest in this, but I noticed it was one counselor member and there's actually, or it says, or minimum of one. And now that we have two on there, I wasn't sure if we'd want a third one on there, so I.
Well, we have one as Counselor Yoder, and then we have an alternate in case he can't make it.
Yeah. Okay.
But if she wanted
Eh,
to,
correct.
because it's a minimum of one, she could serve in that capacity as a second.
Are you referring to the
On there.
airport committee?
Yeah.
If you wanted to be an alternate counselor, I can step down.
Well, that's not even necessary because it's a minimum of one counselor, so.
But you have to be, you want to be careful, you don't have too many counselors that show up.
I have a lot of other ones I like. I was just curious about that.
Okay, so we're gonna leave that one as is now. We can come back to it if you guys change. Air Show of the Cascades Committee, again, airport manager sits on this as a staff position, and that just runs per her position. Ambulance Service Area Committee of Jefferson County. Jefferson County Public Health is the organizer of it. It appears to meet the third. Again, it's Counselor Spencer was the seat on that. I don't know how often they meet. If
They
they
meet
do,
quarterly.
they do. Okay, so it says that on there, but some committees don't actually meet per as their term. So, is there somebody that would be interested in filling the ambulance service area?
I
Oh.
attend those meetings as the EMS chief.
So would it be a conflict if you attended it
No,
as council?
I could not sit both roles in that.
Okay, so we would need somebody aside from,
I'll take Patricia's spot.
okay, so, thank you.
And just so you know, I think it's on a Tuesday in the mornings that we meet at like 9 o'clock.
It does say the third Tuesday quarterly at 9 a.m. at the Public Health Building.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Budget Committee as members of council, you guys automatically sit on that. So just some notes, pretty much Brad Johnston resigned, so his seat is now vacant. We had a couple other vacancies, as you know, from last year. And then Dawn and Trevor's positions expired and neither of them have, Dawn still hasn't communicated yes or no that she would like reappointed. She hasn't responded. So at this time, I'm just taking it as she isn't. Little side note, I've been pushing out communications on committee recruitment and I'll do an update on that, but we've had lots of response, so I'm super thrilled about it. So as of right now, there's no changes outside of just accepting that we're gonna have these vacancies and we'll come back with the appointments of community members later. MRC, same thing. You guys all sit on it as MRC members. The MRC commissioners sit, and then we have some vacancies of people who have resigned or their terms expired. Central Oregon Area Commission. So we have City Administrator, Public Works Director. Do you guys see any needs for changes there? They already serve until the end of this year. Yeah. Stop me if you need to.
I have a question. Maybe I'm just missing it. The Madras Urban Renewal Agency, it doesn't talk about Les or any of those people, aren't they on it?
Because it states all MRC members per individual term. So they're already the MRC members.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Coco. So we have Mayor Lapine, Counselor Siebold as the alternate, and then Will as our staff. This is a reappointment annually. So is there any changes you'd like there?
I'd be willing to give up my alternate. I don't think I've ever actually gone, and this might be a good exposure for one of our two new counselors.
Yeah, I would step up to that.
And that's a third Monday at 11:30. Okay. And you'll be the alternate, which the mayor has, as far as I know, hasn't ever called on the alternate. And everybody else will keep the same. Okay, COIC, this is one that Counselor Solis sits on. His term doesn't expire because we've done a 2-year appointment. So we appointed him last year, so he doesn't expire until the end of this year. However, Counselor Siebold, for whatever reason, because he was appointed in 2023, his term as alternate does expire.
That's a shame.
So is there somebody, or would Counselor Siebold like to take that 2-year appointment?
It's a big responsibility. I'll be honest. Every time Gabriel tried to call on me to do it, I was unable to do it. So I am a horrible alternate at this. So, and I'll just say it's normally like in Redmond, isn't it? So if anybody, I guess we're all on the council, we all live in Madras. So,
They do hold it on Zoom as well.
but if somebody else really wants to do it, this is exciting.
Yeah, I think I had to call out on 3 of them because I was sick at one point, vacation for another, and had a kid. So those were the only times I had to call on him, and yeah, I wasn't
Every
bringing it up.
Every single time. Well, I was like either going camping or I was like on a business trip every single time.
So do we have a new alternate?
It's a really good group. It's comprised of all elected officials throughout the Tri-County region here. So you have commissioners on it in all the various cities.
I'll just
I
keep
really
it.
enjoy it.
I already work with the people because I'm on the regional housing committee. So I already know all the people. It's the same group in a lot of ways. So I'll just keep it.
Okay, thank you.
Do you also then promise to actually be available as an alternate?
Pray for good health for Counselor Solis. That's my plan.
I was just gonna say, I would take that, but I'm curious because I was actually interested in the Regional Housing Council, the one right next after this one. So I wondered, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if you're on both. It's very, yeah. CYC Regional Housing Council.
Which one is that? Yeah, I'll step down. I think Whitney's wants to take the alternate.
Yeah, I can definitely do
Okay,
this
so
one.
you'll
And I
take the
can make
alternate
it.
on that? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bill, okay, thank you. All right, so then we are on to the discussion for COIC, the Transit Advisory Committee. Counselor Solis sits on that and it doesn't expire until the end of this year, so I'm moving on. COIC Regional Housing Committee. So we have Counselor Solis that would need reappointed if he's going to stay
I
as
don't-
primary.
I'm not primary on that. I gave that up.
Oh, that's correct, in a meeting,
Yeah,
yes.
in a
This
meeting.
was red line version was from when we approved it last year.
So Siebold is currently the primary. on
I'm
it.
actually enjoying this one. So I want to stay on this one.
Okay, so, so clarifying, Siebold is our primary. And then I need an alternate.
I would like to be the alternate.
Okay, and then so Tom's got it. And then, Nick, are you gonna continue your term? Thank you. Okay. Geez, this computer, sorry. Central Oregon Regional Solutions Team Advisory Board, Redmond Quarterly.
I don't think we've ever met.
Okay, that's exactly,
Because
okay.
I don't even know what that board is.
So, it does say typically the mayor, do you care if I just update your appointment and I will touch base with them to make sure we haven't missed any meetings? Or what those may be
Sure.
comprised of? Okay,
I see it says typically Mayor Ryan, you know, the clueless one, I think.
okay, I'll see if I can find the contact information to update the term. And if I find anything else out, I'll let you know.
Okay.
All right. Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, that's a 2-year appointment appointed by the city. Right now the mayor sits on it, so we would need to continue.
Yeah.
Okay,
And Mark, we got a thing going there, man, we're just, you know, doing our thing.
okay, you got it. I know that the Child Care Task Force was something that Counselor Thomas brought up that she'd like to get re-going, but as of right now, we haven't ever developed that or went anywhere with it. So that's a communication that I'll just leave as proposed, but that you could bring that forward or work on it with Will. Dangerous Canine Commission. So both Counselor Townsend and Counselor Walker were our council members on this. So I would need 2 people.
I'll be on it.
Oh, I will too.
Okay. Is there a preference on the, oh, I guess it doesn't matter. So. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's on an as needed basis. Deschutes Basin Water Collaborative. So this is a 1-year seat. So Counselor Siebold is showing as primary and the city administrator as the alternate.
I'd be willing to give this one up if somebody has a passion for H2O.
I'll take that one.
Okay, one moment. Okay, Will, are you willing to stay as the alternate?
I like H2O too. It's pretty
I
fun.
thought Nick wanted to take that one. No, I'll take it.
Okay, perfect. I'll leave you. Thank you.
downtown parking task force, do we know if this has been ran, Nick? Has the downtown parking task force operated?
We haven't convened that group. I haven't been able to get to it. and
Okay,
This was
Candidly, the
something that
resolution
council had
passed
brought
this
up.
evening helps out on that. That's right.
Kelly, this was an item that council brought up wanting to restart those conversations and
Okay.
discussions.
okay. I won't omit it. I'll leave it and just, when the time comes, maybe then we'll address the date, time, location, and which members sit, or which council, or would you, okay.
And I think that probably needs to come back fairly soon within the new year. So sometime in the next couple of months, maybe bring that as a topic. Because I know we were looking at it right before COVID hit, and then COVID happened and everything just kind of froze, and it needs to be picked back up.
Okay. EDCO, so Jennifer was our Counselor Townsend was our primary member and Counselor Spencer was the alternate. So
I'll do
this is a
that.
2-year commitment. Lamar as primary.
I'd also be interested in it. So toss up on it, Lamar. I can be the alternate if
Okay, perfect. So Counselor Yoder as the primary and Solis as the alternate. Got it.
If you need a second alternate, I will be the second alternate.
I knew this one would be a very exciting board. You will never find people who aren't
Can
on
we
there.
all-
Say,
can we all be on there?
Can you all be on there? I think that's a lot of seats.
Because I really.
Okay, and then the Homeless Advisory Committee, so we have Mayor Lapine that sits as the chair of that. And then there's the 2 people you just knew recently appointed, and then there's still the vacancy from the public health.
We have a new,
And that person will be taking, do you have to bring them back for appointment though, just like you did with the
I guess that's
faith-based?
maybe a question for the mayor. Do you want Kate or Katie Russell?
Okay.
Mayor, do you want that appointment to come back to council?
If you guys are certain she's gonna take it, we can approve it all together. Okay,
I'll follow up on that.
okay, perfect. Got it.
It's just one council and that's the mayor?
Correct.
Okay. If there's ever, I would be interested if there was ever a second.
Okay.
So forgive me if I'm wrong on the Homeless Advisory Committee, the way I'm reading this, it says that of the voting members, one of them is the Jefferson County Health Department Director. So I don't know if Katie has a choice.
oh, good point.
My
Okay.
understanding, and this, maybe the bylaws read differently, but this sheet indicates to me that she is a voting member
That's how she
because of her
got-
job.
That's how she got rolled into the ASA committee.
Okay,
It's a perks of a director level job. You get voluntold.
okay, that's fine. So I will put the change and we can confirm that. And if something comes back, then we'll address it, whether it's in the resolution or not for her role. The HERD task force, so that obviously was reinstated this year. Right now we have Counselor Siebold and then several staff members. So everything in green is because that was what was reinstated this year and who's serving on it.
Essentially, I think we're planning on doing one more meeting and folding it up, so I don't think we need a wax poetic on that one.
Perfect. Obviously joint city county meetings, all council members are required. The Madras Downtown Association Board, this was one that was, last year we had this discussion because Charo was showing here. And then when you guys had selected me to be seated on it, but it was really interesting as we went to the Downtown Association president at that time, they cannot find anything within their bylaws or rules that state that the city has any seat on it. So, and I don't know if, so go ahead.
So this really started when the Downtown Association was formed, right after the eclipse. And our former city recorder, Lisa Vitimo, had a lot of involvement in helping form the Downtown Association. So when she needed to kind of prioritize some work, Charo was kind of put into that position. So that's kind of how we've got to this place. But you're right, it's always been, candidly, from my perspective, a little odd that the city recorder HR was on the board. If there is city involvement, I think we could find maybe some staff that might be better to support them, but I also don't know that there needs to be a board, position on the board, but then again, we also have the board president here.
Former.
Former,
Okay. In our bylaws, we do not have a position for any city staff.
So at this point, with that being stated, because obviously we can't instruct another association to amend their bylaws. So I would just say, propose that we remove this from our committee list at this point in time. So thank you, guys. All right, the MRC. So you guys all sit on it, and it clarifies who the chair is and the vice chair based off of the vote that we did in December. So I've updated that, shown in green. Councilor Beaver did resign. So Chair Solis and I received that resignation, and then Commissioner Potter's term expired, and Angela Rhodes, as we know, resigned as well. So again, in my recruitment, we actually already have 3 applicants. So this is exciting, and hopefully I'll bring it back on the next meeting for your interviews. The Tommy City Board, Mayor Lapine sits on that. Planning Commission, there's 1 vacancy. We have interest in that as well. Prima, so this is 1 change. I believe Rebecca's gonna take it.
Yes.
I will update that. The Public Safety Advisory Committee is a proposed, I don't know that they've ever met, and Counselor Spencer was member number 3. So if somebody would like to take it.
I'll take that one.
I was going to say, if I could offer, I'd, for their consideration, like to invite the 2 newest city council members to be a part of that. We'd love to have them come as a ride along, tour the PD, see what it is we do on a day-to-day operation, an opportunity to get to know your PD and what we do. So this would be a great opportunity for you to do that, only if your schedule allows. Just send me times, dates, availability, so we can get together once a month. We usually hold a staffing meeting. It's usually towards the very end of the month. We'd love to have you come and be a part of that, and then take you out in the wee dark hours of the night or early mornings and have you get a tour of the city when the lights aren't on.
I was also gonna make a note, Whitney, you've grabbed a bunch of them. I'm just worried about you because I'm retired, so I have a lot of time, but I was gonna say, I was interested in the safety committee, but if you want all those, if you need any help, let me know. If you change your mind, or I'll help you out.
Okay.
Question for you. I do want to reiterate what Chief Plummer said. I did a ride along. I found it very instructive. So I would highly recommend it to anybody. Do a ride along. What's the rule on that, Chief? Is it like you can do one once a year? Am I making that up? It's something like that?
No, I think here's the nicest thing about the policy, being the chief, is I have some flexibility in that policy.
You know the boss?
Yeah, I know there's some reason. Biggest thing you have to do is make sure you don't have a criminal history. Yeah, we kind of have a hard time with people riding next to us that might not be able to, meet the passive background. But I'd encourage you, if you want to, a couple times a year, especially for your education. You got some concerns about some specific parts of town or some of the things that we're doing, hot topic items. We'll go take a look at them and see it is what we do. You just have to read the policy, because there are some things that we might drop you off somewhere in a safe lit place saying it's not safe for you to go on this call with us. So we'll go over all those guidelines. But yeah, love to have you come with us.
I want to do another one, just so you know.
All right, come on by.
Counselor Sebo, the best seat is in the back seat. So just think about that.
No. Will always wants to play with the lights and sirens. I'm constantly having to keep his hands off of the.
All right, let's move on.
All right, the Solid Waste Committee, Michelle, is that still you?
No, Jeff needs to be added to that. Jeff needs to be added to that.
All right, I'm leaving Michelle, her boss says. Okay, South Madras Concept Area Refinement Plan Advisory Committee. Nick, is this even necessary anymore? It's done. So we will, that's exciting. Okay.
Transportation Task Force, this is one that we reinstated, I believe it was this year. And so there's been some red line changes that we just, it reconvened in 2024. We went to 2 council members. So we have Counselor Siebold and Counselor Solis sitting on that. And then all the people listed in green is all the hard work of Michelle, who went out and solicited all these businesses. Or
What are the requirements to be on this task force?
Michelle, do you have any statement on
They
that?
see a citizen spot on there, so to be a citizen, what is the requirements to be on that task force?
Care about the streets?
A desire to pave the streets.
Do you have to be, do you actually have to live within the city?
No, we have some people that are outside of the city, but they're actually a business owner within the city, so that's why
Okay.
we chose them.
Okay,
But, I mean, other residents can be on there.
okay.
And it's only 2, council got changed from 3, because I would definitely be interested in that one if I could be on.
I don't want to speak for Gabriel, but if you want to take the second position, I don't think he knew he was even on this. I'll leave it up to him. I've been going to all the meetings. I haven't missed one.
I'll be there.
So are we wanting to change that from Counselor Solis to Counselor Thomas or?
I think so. Not that I have a vote, but it never stopped me before.
Counselor Thomas is looking for work to do.
Assign it to her.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so the council member number 2 will be Thomas. Okay, thank you. Urban forestry, we do need 2 council members for this one because both Counselor Spencer and Walker sat on this.
I guess I'll take that one.
Okay, so Counselor Thomas, and I need 1 more. No takers for urban forestry, huh?
Wait, urban forestry. Is that like parks?
They do our Arbor Day celebration.
We
I
planted
don't know
trees at the
exactly what
airport
else.
One year.
So can I add to it? So urban forestry is more than urban forestry. So we used to have an urban forestry and a public works and parks. And the Public Works and Parks Committee got to the point where I had like 1 member or 2 members. So we actually combined it. We had to remain under the title of urban forestry so we could submit our application every year for Tree City USA. I think this is year like 36 or something like that we're gonna get. So we do talk about more than just trees. We talk about streets and parks and other things.
Lots of public works.
Okay, my favorite.
I think I would be willing to do that one.
Okay, thank you. And same with the vacancies that we show for citizens. There's been interest in that. So Michelle has those parties forwarded to her. And last one was Weed Control Advisory Committee. That is Michelle. So
Kelly?
what I need is either,
Kelly, did you have Gary Walker on the urban forestry
moved as a citizen.
citizen? Okay.
Yeah.
Because he did give me a letter for that
Yeah,
already.
yes, that was a change on there. So either you can make a motion to approve the committee appointments with the changes discussed, or I can bring it back and put it on the consent agenda. Either way, whatever you prefer.
What's your pleasure, counselors? Would you like to have someone make a motion to approve these committee assignments as discussed or bring it back as a consent agenda?
I think we should do a resolution for every single.
Next, counselor.
bring it back as a consent agenda item.
Bring back on the
Well,
consent.
actually, no, let's go ahead and make a motion to approve it. I'm changing my mind on
Second.
that specifically because I know that some of these boards are waiting to hear
Correct,
who the
that is
member is. CYC, their various committees is one of those. So
I move that the city council approve the committee appointments with any changes discussed for the upcoming year as per we have all agreed to in this meeting.
second.
We have a motion by Counselor Siebold. I'm going to give this second to Counselor Bell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you. I know
Thank you,
that's-
Kelly, for your patience. Discuss meeting conflict for November 2025, Kelly.
Yeah, so this one's just a little bit weird for 2025. So as we know, we typically punt the second meeting of the month due to the holiday week. It usually falls on Thanksgiving week. This year, the first meeting of the month, which is the second Tuesday, actually falls on Veterans Day. So we need to select a second date per the city charter. We're required to hold one meeting per month. So I asked what other cities were doing because we're not the only ones that have this. A lot of them are just naturally, it's already in their charter language to move it to the following night, or you can move it to the midway point and do it the following week. It's, you guys have full say. I did put a little calendar in here. So November, we can see the dates here, and I just need a motion on what day you guys would like to move it to. Or we can hold it the second meeting, which is Thanksgiving week. That's the other option.
Week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how about the first week? The 4th?
I won't be here. It's my birthday that week.
I think that
Lame.
that sounds like a great week to do it. How about the 12th?
Okay.
I think that the consensus is the 12th.
All right. So I just need a motion. I have a sample for you, and you can just put the date
I
in
move
there.
that we hold the MRC and City Council meeting on November 12th, 2025
I'll
in lieu
second.
of our normal meeting date.
Motion by Counselor Solis, premature, second by Counselor Thomas. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That's unanimous. Capital expenditures, December 2024, Kate.
Yes, so finally we have a CIP report for council. It's through December 2024. You'll see our budget for capital this year is $8,164,925. Of that amount, we've spent 28%, roughly $2.3 million. The detail of the budget by line item, by fund, is the supporting document. The only really unfavorable one is I would identify as in the airport fund. There's just a line item in there for airport improvements. And what that is electrical on the reel. And I think Michelle and Jeff can help explain that if you have any questions. But what happens sometimes is there's unforeseen capital needs. You will see overall in the budget that fund is not unfavorable in capital outlay. But if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Remind us why in the first couple lines, the police stuff, why is it such a huge variance from the budget to the actual? Body cameras and e-citations. Is this
Well, that's
just year-to-date running, so it's gonna add up to, okay, that's what I
Correct.
thought.
And some of those grants are cost reimbursement quarterly. Some of them, if we haven't had spending or some items like that, then it's going to look favorable year to date. I do not need a motion. It's just a report.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Hearing none. Okay, thank you, Kate. Next one, Kate, City of Madras and MRC budget calendar.
Yes, so this is also informative for the council members and our mayor. This is the proposed City of Madras and MRC budget calendar. And what you'll see is it's just a timeline. For example, next week, our budget packets sent out to our departments. Some highlights though, I am planning to present the budget assumptions to council and MRC on January 28th. And you'll see in that calendar what that will include. Other items to highlight really are when the first and second proposed budget dates are. as well as the state revenue sharing. It will be part of one of our budget hearings. But if council has had an opportunity to review it, has any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
I believe that both Counselor Siebold and I have a conflict with April 17th being the meeting, simply because county's budget committee hearings are April 15th and April 17th. And
Okay.
so we're going to be in all-day budget committee meeting there. And I think that if we were to turn around and come here, we would be absolutely brain dead,
And grumpy.
hangry.
Yeah.
No
so if we
grumpy.
can move that to a different date.
I can look at another date and bring it back next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
All right, as most of you probably figured out by now, we do have a vacancy on our city council. Patricia Spencer has tendered her resignation. We thank her for her time served and wish her the best of luck in her future adventures. At this point, we are now going to have to enter the recruitment process for that position. Will, what do you have in mind?
It's actually me. So.
Kelly, what do you have in mind?
So, first, according to the city charter, you guys, declare the vacancy. So there is a motion that you guys will declare the vacancy for the city council, and then you would authorize staff to begin the recruitment process. I will just say I went back and looked at the history because, as you know, I haven't had to fill a vacancy before. So historically, the city recorder as elections officers issues a call for application. So there's a whole list of, she puts it in the newspaper, social media, different places it's advertised for the vacancy. I put a sample of the application previously used. So applications are submitted to the recorder and a sample of the applications included. And then following that, we would set a date once we have a certain number of candidates, or however you choose to do that. You would set a meeting date with all potential applicants during the public meeting, and then you would vote to appoint. Obviously, we're moving into budget season and potentially council retreats and such to work on strategic goals. So it was, staff's recommendation that we move rather quickly, but you also want to make sure you have a candidate pool to choose from. It did appear that in the past, when we've had the vacancies, like when Counselor Solis got appointed and when Counselor Yoder and Siebel got appointed, there were larger applicant pools for the appointment. I think we had like 7 applicants each time. So I guess what I need for direction is I went ahead and put the application previously used and the interview questions previously used. I proposed, based off of some stuff I saw through my listserv, through the other city recorders, other questions that were out there. So that sample, and we can cross them off, add to them, whatever you'd like, or bring it back a different time. But I just need to know that you guys want us to move forward with recruiting for that vacancy, and then any stipulations, such as it looked like in the past, maybe it was stipulated that council didn't want to interview applicants unless they had a pool of 3 candidates or something to that effect. So that would need to just be clarified.
And first off, you need a motion to declare that position?
Correct. There is a motion that I put that says that you'll declare the vacancy, and then you're authorizing us to move forward with filling that position.
I just want to say one quick thing. I want to publicly thank Dr. Patricia Spencer for her service to our community as a city councilor for the great city of Madras. She put a lot of time into it. She really loves the city, cares about our community. So I just want to publicly acknowledge her and thank her for her contribution to our community.
Thank you.
You want the motion first? You want to talk about the terms of the
You
next
guys
thing?
can do it either way.
I'll start it off with the motion.
I move to declare a vacancy on the Madras City Council and authorize staff to begin the recruitment process to fill the vacant position with the term ending on December 31st, 2026.
Second. I have a motion by Counselor Siebold and seconded by Counselor Yoder. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? It's unanimous. Go ahead, Clyde.
Thank you. So again, the application that was previously used was pretty generic. It just calls for the basic stuff that was already in most counselor positions. So applicant information, it's important to note that they live within the city residence and that they've been a city resident if they were for 1 year prior to their term.
My humble opinion, we should stick with the precedent we've always gone with where we don't interview until we have a minimum of 3 candidates.
Okay.
I think that's fair. We've always done that. That gives us enough time. I don't know. I'm assuming that that probably pushes it into February or whenever we have enough candidates, which is fine. We're in no hurry. Better do it right than fast. So I would propose 3.
I'll also throw out there the item confirming that they live within city limits. Staff should also be confirming that and verifying before we get to
Correct.
an interview. We've had past instances where we got through the entire interview and then it came up that
Oh, no.
they did not live within city limits, which looked extremely poor on us as a city council.
No, I understand that. During the normal election process, once I received the candidate application, I confirm with the county clerk that they've been registered. And if it isn't confirmed that way, then I ask for proof of residency.
Okay,
All right. So is everyone in consensus that at least a minimum of 3 applicants?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and stick with the application that we have previously. And do you guys want to review questions right now, or would you like to do that at a different time?
So is the last page your recommendation?
The last page was the recommendations. There are a lot, so I figured you guys could strike them knowing how we've handled interview questions in the past. Some of them are duplicates of what's already on the current questions, but it asks, what inspired them to be a council member? What do they think the local government role is in economic development? What's the greatest strength of our community? Volunteer efforts in community development, philosophy on local government and its roles, 3 important challenges facing Madras. What are your thoughts or experiences with relationships surrounding other jurisdictions? What qualities do you bring, and have you prepared for the position? And are there specific city programs or issues that are particular?
So these gonna be like essay questions?
No, well, they'll answer them verbally and you guys will take notes as you
I
choose.
like these questions. I don't know if there's any that I dislike. A few of them, you're right, are duplicates of above, but I'd be okay with moving forward with those.
I agree. I'm fine with these questions. I don't think the value is in perfectly worded questions. We just need people to apply and go through the process, meet them face to face, and go from there.
My only concern with sticking with 10 is if you have 7 applicants and you have to ask them all the same question in the middle of a public meeting, do you
Well,
want 10 questions?
We don't have to hold all of those interviews at the same time.
No,
Or we
you
can
do not.
decide if we have 7, 8, 9, 10 applicants,
Correct.
we can decide to set a whole separate date where that's all we're
Absolutely.
doing.
We can
And
do
we
a special meeting.
And we can do this as a special meeting. It doesn't
Correct.
have to
We
be
can
at
do
the
it as a
council.
special
Yeah.
meeting.
So I think we wait on that and see what that applicant pool looks like
Yep.
before making that decision.
Okay, I'll keep you guys updated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all the business? Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Was there something else? No, that was just me on there. Okay. Now I'm doing really good. So, counselors, those who are new, we do this thing at the end. Let me pull up my cheat sheet. At the end, where we do a round table. And so this is your opportunity to say a few things. Also a great opportunity to give a report on whatever committees that you represent. We start off with the counselors first, and then we go through the staff, and that way, if there's something comes up, the staff will be able to go back and backtrack and answer whatever things that you may have had during your round table. So that being said, we're going to start with Counselor Bell.
That's not fair.
Okay, Counselor Siebold, go right ahead, and then we'll backtrack.
Okay, so I am on the Regional Housing Committee. It's a lot of fun. We meet in Redmond. It's a kind of a collection of all the regional stuff. So just so you know, the strategy is we're all trying to coordinate our regional housing strategy for Central Oregon vis-a-vis how we approach Salem and have asks. Okay, so we have a series of meetings. Nick's on that too. We need to start carpooling. And so we went through the process. Ultimately, they came up with a list of recommendations. They have a voting system where you vote green, yellow, or red. Green, you love it. Yellow, you got some issues, but you're not going to hold it up. Red, throwing a red flag on the field. I ended up voting yellow to move forward. There's a couple of things I didn't like about it, but by and large, I think it's best to have a united front as a region when we go to the state, because I think candidly, a lot of the stuff they wanted, the state isn't going to be able to fund. So why, fight over the details of spoils that I think will never actually materialize. So that's what's going on. From my understanding, talking to the leadership, Scott, that it hopefully will be a multi-year ongoing thing. If anybody has any housing related theories or strategies or whatever, please come talk to me. I'm happy to be our voice, our representative. So that's the Regional Housing Committee. I will also say that I'm going to be getting surgery here in the next few weeks. I have a health issue, so once I do get it scheduled, which is TBD, then I will probably be, the doctor said, do nothing for 2 weeks. So I could miss a city council meeting. I have a pretty good attendance record on this stuff, but we'll see. So I'm still upset that the Ducks lost to Ohio State. That's it.
So with those saying, Counselor Solis.
All right, so I've got a couple of things. COIC did not meet in January, pending appointment for the various counties and cities that are involved. But our last meeting that we had in December was very informative. As you all know, we now have a new transit director for CET, Bob, who many of us know from ODOT, and he's been doing fantastic. He presented on a number of changes that he's hoping to bring to CET, I think all of which will be beneficial for the region as a whole. I'm looking forward to continuing to serve in that capacity. It's been a fun few years. I've been on that since shortly after I started as a city councilor in 2021, took over for previous Councilor Brick. And then an item of concern, and I've talked with both Will and the mayor about this. Our county veteran service officer brought this to the attention of the county directors and county commissioners on their meeting on the 8th. But this is, I think, a significant issue that we should take up the chain as high as we can and try to get resolved. But there are local providers here dropping or refusing to take VA insurance. This is a huge concern. It comes from a number of issues. VA is very difficult to deal with on a number of things. The claims on average are taking about a year to process. So I understand some of the frustration, I think both of our veterans, but also from the businesses providing medical, health, dental, physical therapy. I understand their frustrations and struggle as well because they're in it to run a business. But it's very concerning to hear about these drops. Here locally, Madras Physical Therapy is going to stop taking VA patients due to these issues they're having with the VA. That's very concerning because now local veterans are going to have to go to Redmond or Bend in order to receive physical therapy. Dental providers and mental health providers throughout the 3-county area, Crook, Deschutes, and Jefferson, have been dropping VA as well. Quoting laborious paperwork, lengthy wait times, complex billing processes. Our veterans are individuals who have gone above and beyond what most of us do as far as serving our community. And we as elected officials should be fighting for them to receive these benefits. They have earned it because they have already served their country. So this is extremely disheartening and discouraging to hear. I know the county commissioners were all equally upset as I was. I actually spoke to Laura afterwards, asked for information on it. So I've sent that on to Will. He can share that with each of you individually. But it's extremely concerning. And I know the commissioners are going to be working with legislators and senators to see how we can get this fixed. And even the mayor and I had conversation about taking this up even to the federal level to see what can be done to change this and correct the issues that are at hand. I would propose at some point the city put together a letter. The mayor has volunteered to participate in helping draft that letter just from his experience and knowledge that we can send to our legislators, to the senators, to the federal government about these issues and make a point to fix it. So not to end on that kind of a bummer of a note, but I think it's a huge issue. It's very discouraging to hear.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Thomas.
I don't really have anything to report at this time.
That's quite all right.
Thank you.
Counselor Yoder?
Concerning the airport committee, so, we didn't have a meeting in December because we didn't have a quorum, so that was the extent of that. But one of my concerns that I voiced on the airport committee is, and I talked to Jeff about this too, but the roof on the north hangar, there's a lean-to on the east side of the north hangar, and it's deteriorated fairly badly and it's leaking. And so it's ruining the structural integrity of the building. And because it's a historic building, I think it's important that we get that roof replaced to try to protect the building itself. So if, I'm sure Jeff's maybe looked into that at some time or not, but we need to look into that to get that taken care of. Second thing, and this has been ongoing for quite a while, but I think we really need to do something with the graffiti in our town. It doesn't look nice. I've got a lot of complaints from people. Somehow we need to address the issue. I don't know what it is specifically, but somehow we need to address the issue. I talked to Will and to Plummer about it, both Will more recently than Plummer, but I think that we need to do something to, it just looks terrible in our town, you know, and it's defacing our property, it's damaging the property. I don't know if this is the case, but whatever we can charge people with that's more aggressive, I would be totally 100% in favor of. Whether it's criminal mischief to whatever we can make happen, it needs to stop. I'm tired of seeing it. It's all over town. A third thing that I wanted to talk about, and I talked to Will about this also, but the police have a difficult issue. We go around and see vacant property in Madras, and there's somebody camping on the property. They don't have permission to be there, but they're making a big mess. They're dumping their garbage. They leave a big pile of garbage. And by the time the police have time to track down the owner and go out and address the issue, they've already done their damage and then they leave. So I would propose, and I don't know, this has to abide by the state of Oregon rules and something for the attorney to look into, but I would propose that we have some type of regulation in Madras that when it comes to a vacant piece of land, that when the police discover, when somebody discovers somebody camping on that property, they have to produce a document that's giving them permission to be on the property. And it has to be some type of legal document. You can't just have a handwritten note, maybe notarized or something to the extent. If they can't produce it within a certain time frame, then those people automatically get trespassed off the property. And it would be something, and who knows if this violates, I'm not sure if this violates the trespass laws and those type of things, but it'd be something that I believe would be an advantage to the property owners here in Madras, because there's been how many times I call and talk to somebody or finally get a hold of somebody that owns a property and they have no idea that this person was camping on their property, drugs, needles, garbage, whatever the case is, damaging their property. And by the time somebody actually says something about it, it's already too late. The damage has been done. Then the property owner is stuck with that. And in the case of the police, we're causing them, they're spending a tremendous amount of time trying to get a hold of the owner, trying to resolve the issue. Whereas if we had some type of ordinance that could simply, hey, you produce a document. If they can't produce a document within 3 days, or I'm just, giving a hypothetical example, then they automatically get criminally trespassed. Boom, done deal. I don't know if that's legal in Oregon, but I would really like to see us try to figure out something to make it easier for the police and safer for the property owners so they don't have this continued issue. And it would also take care of a lot of the people just coming here and just all of a sudden showing up. the Opportunity Foundation, I talked to them, they said how many times people just show up in their property and just park there and start camping. And then they just did recently, and we chased them off, and they left a big pile of garbage. Well, who's gonna deal with the garbage? Well, now the Opportunity Foundation has to deal with it. You know, it's gonna cost them something. So hopefully we can address that issue. It's kind of a big issue to me. Anyways, and I wanted to say thank you to everyone for all the work and the effort that was put into last year. We had a lot of difficulties that we went through, and it took a lot of effort from everybody involved. And I wanted to say also thank you to Patricia for her service here. I understand it's difficult. We spend a lot of time here. There's a lot of things that go on, and sometimes it really gets in the way of our job and our work. But I still like to do it because it's important to help our community, because not everybody is able to do that. So we're all special people here because we're able to help Madras. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Bell, back to you.
All right. I'm very excited for these new appointments on these committees. But Pam and I went on a Public Works field trip this last week. It was incredibly exciting. We went to the South Plant and the North Plant. And I'm very excited, and hopefully our golf course plans come to fruition fully. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah, good meeting.
Chief.
Councilman Yoder, thank you. I appreciate all that you do to keep your eyes on the city. And just to follow up on some of the things that you have said, some of the things that have been happening, conversations with juvenile parole and probation. That we've had a conversation, reach out to them to try and see that some of these offenders that we have caught and charged them with their criminal mischief have the opportunity to go out and repaint. P&P has the same problem we do, and that's money to buy the paints, and then to move them out to do what it is that they need to do. So we're working on some strategies to try and to get that, and maybe that they won't like that so much, and they'll discourage them from doing that and sharing that with their friends. But that is important, and I agree with you. Some of the biggest offenders in the last round we've had, three of them been taken into custody, cited. Some of them were big enough that they did and were taken into custody. So to let you know that we are doing that, but we appreciate the fact that you see it, that you say something about it. Our code enforcement officers on the other side, that if they are the property owner, they have it, they go out and visit with them and let them know that we do have a city ordinance that says you've got to cover this up. You've got to be it. I don't know, Nick and I have worked on if there is any community cleanup and paints and resources available for them to be able to come and get that and to be able to cover that up. But so we are making those connections. And to that point, to let you know, our code enforcement officers are invaluable. They're doing such a tremendous work. I think Will's going to address an issue with you tonight, a little bit about getting some of these abandoned vehicles moved and permanently moved so that they're not just moving to another block or something like that. So thank you for that. Really, that's the biggest thing that we have. We're going to be, we're working on budget, some of the things that we're looking to be able to accomplish for our next year, some of the big hurdles that were not really big hurdles. We're doing really great because of the support you gave us last year with the technologies that we're able to gain, the efficiencies that we have. So anyway, I'm going to try and take us up to 9 o'clock because that's my time on the calendar bet tonight. No, not really. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Kate.
Yeah, well, as council will continue to experience, we're going into budget season. Very excited about that, having full staff. So we're working on budget season, forecasting, getting some regression analysis numbers together for our budget work session. See how it ties to everyone's goals, strategic goals, those type of things. In the next meeting, I will bring back an updated date for our calendar as well as budget assumptions, but also I talked a little bit about updating some of like our fiscal policies so we can implement those, January 28th if you approve, so we can actually apply them for the budget, not wait until July 1st. So kind of switch that to a calendar year. yeah, January's just a busy month, lots of calendar year-end reports going on, those type of things. Um, that's about it.
Thank you, Kate.
Nick. On the January 28th city or MRC meeting, staff will be bringing to you a request to move forward with a disposition plan for one of the MRC properties. Just a heads up on that. We've got some interest on that. So that's a positive project. Also reviewing the draft homelessness report. The Homeless Advisory Committee at their December meeting has made a recommendation to the City Council for your approval on that. I'm reviewing the final draft and teeing that up for the City Council, and don't know that we'll be ready to put on your agenda in January, but likely February. I'd hope it wouldn't be March, but that'll be coming to you in that general timeline. And gosh, lots of other things, but I think those are just some really big things coming before the council. And there's one other thing. So tomorrow night, the Planning Commission will be holding their first ever evidentiary hearing on the code amendment related to the flood insurance rate map. And so they'll hold that hearing. I don't know what action we'll take on that, but that's important because that is changing the reference in our development code for which is the effective map that insurance or property owners are required to have insurance. So we have done an open house in December on that, had modest participation. I think that was due to the extreme cold, and we had snow on the ground for, I don't know, seems like 4 or 5 days, and they got real slick, and that probably is why attendance was low. But we have notified all the affected property owners of both the scheduled Planning Commission, City Council public hearing. So that'll be coming to you at your second meeting in February. And so the goal after that is to communicate, should the council approve it, communicate to FEMA that we would like them to finalize the maps and actually publish those maps. Long road ahead, as one of the slides that I have for the Planning Commission, kind of linking them through the whole process. There was goes back to 2016. We've been trying to work on this. And then we had to construct a bridge along the way. So there's been a little few hiccups, and we're gonna finish this up here pretty soon. So thank you, Mayor.
Jeff. Just a couple quick things. Over the past, I don't know how many years we've been doing it. We've always been really successful obtaining like a principal forgiveness loan from DEQ to do sewer projects. And we're getting to the point where we've got our last few ones, and we're getting ready to start work on updating the wastewater master plan so we can be eligible. But we had a couple of requests up by Tops Trailer Park in that neighborhood where we've got sewer in 2 out of the 4 streets up there, and there's 2 more to go. And there's a couple homes that have been asking for it, needing it, have commitments from COIC to help pay for, a connection to city sewer. And so the folks from COIC called us and was talking to us about it, and we're like, well, they're like, how soon? And it's like, well, we're kind of just getting started on the wastewater master plan, and that's a 2-year process, then adoption, blah, blah, blah. And then Rochelle and I were sitting here talking and said, well, you know what, let's just call DEQ and see if they'll give us it's so close to the expiration, could we apply for funding? And DEQ said, based on the circumstances and the fact that it was already a project and even we're just outside that window, they said we could apply and to bring sewer into that neighborhood and finish everything. And we may have to do a quick amendment to our existing master plan to update that project, but they made it eligible. So for us, that's good news because that helps speed up that process. So what our plan is that we're going to be proposing to you all, hopefully at the next council meeting, kind of a resolution to be able to apply for And that would be kind of like the last big project in town to serve sewer within existing city limits. So which is great news, because I thought we were stuck to where I couldn't apply again for like up to 3 years. So, we also put our bids for a chip seal project. That should be forthcoming. It'll either be at the next meeting, we'll present it to you to award a contract, or the first meeting in February. And then, we're moving forward on our industrial pretreatment program. One of the things that has to happen with that program is we have to send out letters to all businesses and that could be affected by basically what they're putting down the drain as far as sewer goes. So any business, say, especially industrial, and it's a survey. It's a survey from each one of the businesses. Hey, what are you putting down the drain? Because we're trying to collect data to see if there needs to be a change in our structure in how sewer is assessed and trying to determine strengths of wastewater and whatnot. So that letter's going to be going out here in the next couple of weeks. So I imagine there will be a lot of questions from folks. Maybe some frustrations. It's just one of the steps in the process. We got to collect the data. So, but that's all I got.
Thank you, Jeff. Rebecca.
Law enforcement recruiting is still up. We've still got tons of candidates. We have 2 days of panel interviews next week. I think Tuesday, Wednesday, memory serves. So that's ongoing. We've already started a process to talk about CBA negotiations. So you should be hearing more about that soon in your role. And I'm anxious to learn more about that process, being my first time. I'm going to be working with Will on learning more about government budgets and what my role is in that. And so I'm pretty excited. Looking forward to the rest of 25.
Thank you. Kelly.
All right, just a couple reminders. So like I said, I've been pushing out recruitment information on the committees. While we've had lots of great response on MRC, a few on budget, Urban Forestry Planning Commission, I still need more. So I'm going to continue pushing that out because each time we get a couple that trickle in. So anything you guys can do by word of mouth to fill those roles, specifically the budget committee, which is our least time consuming committee of all. So really that's great if we can get people on that. I sent emails out to you guys on the chamber banquet that's coming up. And so I know Councilor Thomas, Councilor Solis, and Councilor Bell responded that they'd like to fill. We have a table of 8, so we offer it to council first and then department heads next. So if any of you that have not responded or would like to attend the chamber banquets, please let me know. And then reminder that on the 27th, we have the ethics training here. I can't see who registered, so I'm hoping that you all did because the public meeting law portion is mandatory. I just know through OGEC that 25 people have registered. I don't know who they all are. And then I'll attend some of the upcoming coffee cuppers chamber events to just really push out the recruitment efforts further on the committees and also the council position. And then I think I've already announced that Commissioner Bieber resigned from the MRC. That should be.
Thank you, Kelly. Will.
All righty. With great work comes some costs. So Eric and Dwayne have done a fantastic job of cleaning up the community. With that said, we have run out of funds to remove RVs. So we have money in contingency to do this. So I just want you to let you know we've got a $6,700 ticket to remove 4 RVs, or roughly $1,500 to $2,000 a piece, with IRAs. And so that's the best price we've gotten to legally remove them. Unfortunately, we have some vendors that are just towing them to another location and leaving them. So this is the best way to approach it. $6,700. I'm just looking for your blessing to continue their work, because they're building some serious momentum with this, but it does come at a cost.
My humble opinion, I think we need to prioritize code enforcement, anything to do with the camping ordinance, public safety, quality of life stuff. So to me, that's top line budget item. I would absolutely prioritize this personally.
And if I could, Will, just so you know, I just got another quote in from Dwayne. it's down about $1,000 for the
Oh,
whole
okay.
package. So I just got it in before I stepped over here. So what that is they're probably one of the only tow companies in the region that will actually take an RV, because they do that at a loss. If you don't know about when you have to reclaim an RV, there's a whole lot of stuff in an RV that just can't go to scrap metal. It actually you have to decommission them pretty much. And so they take them based on how big they are and what the contaminants are in them. So Dwayne's able to work with them really well, and to have them take that lift for us is really, we feel pretty fortunate to have them in the area willing to do that. So appreciate your support on that.
Yeah, I'd like to say I 100% support that also. I think it's really important that we keep those ridiculous things off of our streets, because we're talking about bringing additional business to Madras. And if you want anybody to even consider us to bring business to Madras, we really need to make sure that we get a handle on those things. Otherwise, we're going to be in the dark ages. So appreciate your efforts on that, especially code enforcement too. They've done a great job, I think, with pointing those out. So thank you.
It sounds like we have the funds in contingency.
I would like to clarify, the materials and service budget has about $90,000 in appropriations available. The specific line item is over about 8,000. So we do have funds available. We don't need a resolution.
Yeah, I'd say proceed. I agree with both of their comments on it. And it sounds like
Okay.
we've got the budget already in that particular category, so not a concern.
Right. Just put on my no surprise rule.
Well, thank you, council, because we were getting calls at City Hall from neighbors in this particular neighborhood. And so thank you. This may seem small, but I guarantee you that neighborhood very much appreciates that.
All right, Brenna with EDCO is a quasi staff member. She's been very engaging with us. She arranged for a company to come look at us for 3 different parcels, and they seem to be interested in all 3 parcels to build potential data centers. So we're driving some real activity with that. To help Brenna out, there's an EDCO advisory board that needs to be made up for Jefferson County. The county has 4 seats, the city has 4 seats. Metolius and Culver each have 1 seat. So usually it is a council member that serves on that, with potentially 2 citizens and then myself. I can always drop off if you want to have 2 council members sit on that to represent the 4 seats. With respect to the 2 citizens, Jennifer Townsend has shown an interest in it, and so has Rob Hansen with Daimler. So if that's okay with council, we can bring back something more formal, or just go with it and get a meeting scheduled, because I know the county is working with their 2 community members as well.
I like the idea, the idea of you sitting on there, because the county administrator is going to be on there, and that's.
Yeah. So if there's a specific council member that's expressed an interest in serving on the EDCO advisory board, we're
I
more
would-
than.
Yes.
Either of us.
Please.
Let's give it to Pamela.
Pamela wants work to do.
Oh, well, there's no shortage. We can find her a cubicle. How does she feel about finance?
Well, then I couldn't be here though.
Yeah. Okay, so if that works, we'll move forward with those 2 community members as well as the other piece. The next item is regarding the collective bargaining agreement. One aspect of this is educating the council on the process. So with Kate's help, we were able to find an attorney named John Rue, whose firm works extensively with municipalities on collective bargaining agreements. He is recommending that we hold an exec session to educate council, lasts approximately 45 minutes. His recommendation is to do it before the beginning of the January 28th meeting, so starting at 5:30, starting the MRC roughly at 6:30, and moving through it from there. I can work with staff to reduce the agenda items from 19 to something less. I can pretty much guarantee it'll be less than 19. So We can do that, or does council wish to wait until they appoint their sixth member? It wouldn't be the recommendation to wait because the fact that the current CBA expires on June 30th, and it will be a series of conversations we're going to have with Dan Thinnell, the Guild's attorney.
I think it needs to move forward. We don't know if we'll get any applicants for the city council position. I know prior to myself being appointed, when they had vacancies, they had to go out 3+ times in order to get an applicant to apply for that vacant position. So we don't know what kind of environment we're going to be in. So I think that these conversations need to continue regardless of that seat being filled.
Okay, so we will plan on an exec session starting at 5:30. It helps control our legal spend by doing it that way. So then there's a specific time that we start versus waiting for a meeting to end and having them hang around.
One quick thing I'll say on that, a lot of times at 5:30, if people are going to come in our audience, which we appreciate because they're used to 5:30.
Yeah, we will notify them ahead of time.
So we just have to make sure we gatekeep so we don't have to kick everybody out.
Yeah. Next up, I'm going to be bringing forward an agreement for Joanna, who is sitting to my right. She has been our city attorney since I signed a short-term agreement to fill in when Jeremy let us know that they were not going to be representing us after December 31st. We're still actively recruiting for a city attorney. We've only received 3 applicants. Unfortunately, none of them had municipal experience. So we're now considering using a search firm, same search firm that we were able to do some price. We did an RFP with Jefferson County to come up with some solid pricing for search firms. And so we may wind up engaging them just on the recruitment side, but the rest of it we can handle on our own. So that may come back as it wouldn't come back to you as a cost item, but it's just a thing that we will be discussing internally to see if we can move forward. But in the meantime, Joanna's agreement was capped at my amount, but luckily she is, of course, a frugal lady. And so we haven't spent what's my authorization is, but it would be better to bring back a longer term contract. With it, staff seems very happy with Joanna and she's been very engaged with us. So if there's no disagreements there. And then finally, I want to welcome Whitney and Pamela to the council meetings. This is one of our shorter meetings. So just hang on and it'll get more exciting as we go.
Well, I really can't speak much about words of wisdom, there's attorney-client privilege. So there's a lot I can't talk about, but I am just carefully taking notes over here and just be assured that I hear all kinds of different problems and I've got a solution for some of them. So I'll be communicating that with staff.
I had an attorney present to one of my business courses in college, and they said that their answer for absolutely everything in life is it depends. And I think that's very accurate. I've heard that a lot from attorneys in my career.
Gee, I learned to say, I don't recall.
Yeah, that's another one.
But, thank you. I had one thing that's been kind of plaguing me this past couple of weeks, especially with things that are going on in California. And county has an emergency plan, and I'm comfortable with it because it involves the department I work for full time. It involves the police department, so I know Chief Plummer is aware of it. But I was told some time ago the city does not have an emergency plan. I don't know if that's true, if we do or don't. Everybody's kind of looking at it like this. So if it is in existence, do we know?
As a matter of fact, let Jeff talk about it. We do have a flood response plan that we recently did a stress test on, but I don't know if it's related to I don't think we have a wildfire plan.
Okay, so
I think that falls under the county.
in the county's plan, it involves a lot of different kind of things and whatnot. And so I was thinking if the council's cool, I was gonna email a copy to everybody, so the county, so at least the council's aware of it.
And I'll
Kind
do
of a
some
deal.
searching too in the vault because we have a handy dandy file inventory that has thousands of
I'll
records. So
send it
I
to
will do some
everybody.
searching.
Kind of deal, but I would like to encourage if the council's also supportive of, if you can get your department heads and kind of figure out have a more broad thing to handle different types of emergencies we might run into. Could be flood, could be fire, could be civil unrest, could be earthquake, could be attacked by Mars, whatever. But it would be be great that I would feel more at peace in knowing that if we had a plan of whatever, it could be simple as looking at page 34 in the county's plan. This is how we fall into that. I mean, I'm not requesting to reinvent the wheel. I'm looking for something that we know that we do have a set plan for certain things. And at the same time, I was kind of struggling, what is our role in this? And it's easy for me at the other work because I got a plain easy job in here. And here I'll fall back on the shooting at Safeway in Bend when they did the press conference and the mayor of Bend steps up and goes, "This was horrible. We're not going to stand for this. Bend strong." Chief, and that's all he did. So it was kind of painful. I was that my job is pretty much to say, "Chief, Will, what do you need? And which senator or representative should I go hound to go get?" So,
We will come back with something that the chief has got some ideas with it. I also apologize. Kate reminded me to mention community grants. So that's going to come back up for discussion as part of the budget process, and we're going to start posting applications here soon. So one of the things we'll talk briefly about on the 23rd is the budget retreat is how do you want to do that? Do you want the same process we did in 24, which seemed to work? We could certainly follow that where there's an economic component and a social services component, as well as the fact that council instead of the budget committee appropriated the funds.
Yeah, I think we definitely want to move away from budget committee being involved in that. I would say that I'd recommend you maybe touch base with both Councilor Bell and Councilor Thomas because they weren't here. They didn't experience any of that, so they don't really know what direction we were looking at going. And maybe even just pull some of those notes and bring it up at our next council meeting to discuss as a group so we can kind of recall ourselves, be reminded what was said, what was discussed, and what direction we were looking at going at for it. But I think that really, as far as the budget goes, it's just the appropriation, whatever the dollar amount is, and then we figure out how that grant process will look.
I would
later.
like to propose bringing back maybe a red line version of what the application looks like.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit old.
Yep, I would agree with that.
I will also add that, remember, there was the component that within the process, people had to fill out paperwork on the back end, and we had never previously properly tracked that. So we do need to do that this time. And if they didn't do the paperwork, as far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't be eligible for the next year. Because if we define a process from A to Z and they're not willing to complete the process, then why would they be eligible for funds the subsequent year? Otherwise, why did they bother to fill out the paperwork?
As well as being a current nonprofit organization. That was very great.
anybody, anything else, anybody? All right. Thank you, everybody, for your stamina. We'll adjourn at 9:15.